Fest 2022 coming to Lincoln, Nebraska. All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to Caliber Corner. What is today's episode? Are we 239? I have no idea. I don't have the YouTube screen up and running. But anyway, we're season 5, episode 200 and something. And today we're going to talk about black powder revolvers. Now, we had this discussion like maybe 6 months ago. We have to go back and check the playlist. And we've done a much more in-depth black powder multi-part series discussion on Caliber Corner a couple of years ago. But about 4 weeks ago at Thunder on the Prairie 2022, which was the premier YouTuber shooting event held in Lincoln, Nebraska at Nebraska Shooters Range, I had an opportunity to fire several black powder revolvers, including my own, and I didn't really know how to run it. So Squib Load here, once again, master of disaster, showed me how it's supposed to work, and I'm completely addicted to it now, just like how I got into reloading. So we want to talk about black powder revolvers for a while. What are they? What are they not? What can you expect? Maybe some of the maybe little falsehoods that you sometimes see in the Old West movies versus what it's like in real life to shoot these things. And what you should know, prices on them, unfortunately, have gone up quite a bit. But the good news is that once you get the stuff that you need to get started, it is a great hobby. I find it very relaxing, almost akin to reloading, because you're just at the range, you're having a good time, you're focusing on reloading the gun, you're shooting it, just really getting a feel for what it was like shooting these weapons 150 years ago. So anyway, before we do that, we're going to let the esteemed panel introduce themselves and give us a plug for their channel or say whatever they want to say. And then we're just going to go right into it. I've got my field box with me with all my gear in it for black powder, revolver shooting. I've got my Pieta New Navy. Is that right? Squib 44, 1851. I'm learning.
Okay, so it is Traditions is a brand, but it's made by Pieta. And it is a Colt 1851 Navy. They never actually called them an 1851 Navy back in 1851, but that's the trade name.
Yeah.
And it's chambered in 44, which the original was chambered in 36. I think they made one prototype in 44 back then. Okay. So it's compatible with your other 44 caliber revolvers. Mm-hmm. You know, you might be using the same round ball if you've already got that. And it looks, feels, everything else just like an 1851 Navy. So Colt 1851 Navy, the same thing Wild Bill Hickok carried. Well, one of the types of revolvers.
Just right off the top, after shooting this the first time, it's very comfortable shoot. It cleans up really well. After this first range trip, there's no rust or corrosion on it. And I've got a pretty extensive cleaning video on my channel that you guys can watch on how to clean a black powder revolver. And Squib, he took me through the whole process and explained to me what I was going to be doing. It's very minimal number of supplies to clean these things up. It's just a lot of fun, man. It's just a fun hobby to get into and to learn how they run. We need to have like a little troubleshooting discussion about what to watch for if you have issues with it, because they're not going to go off every time. I mean, I don't care what happens in the Old West movies. It's not always that smooth of an experience when you're actually on the range. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. But okay, so single shot, we'll go ahead and start off with you. What you've been up to? I've had a couple weeks off. I've had some stuff I've been helping friends and family with, and Ammo Dog had surgery, so I've been busy for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But single shot, what are you up to these days, man?
I am
Dude, you're breaking up, man. I'm sorry. Can you start over real quick?
Right, motorizing right along here. I made a big day yesterday, 746 miles in one shift.
How much does that cost in diesel?
Put it this way, too much.
Too much? Too much? Is that 100 gallons? Is that 100 gallons of diesel? Do you get 7.4 miles per gallon in your truck? Or is that
thereabouts. Yeah.
That's not bad.
I've had.
That's not bad.
Not considering you're pulling a 70-foot trail. I mean, a 70-foot truck down the road, and out here the speed limit's 80. So we wind it right out the end of the cable and let her roar. So I did one video on Rumble. It actually came out right, guys. I got one on Rumble that came out right. That last one was a disaster. Nice. I mean, it came out all right, but it's completely upside down. And what I've got to do is, if I want to do any videos on Rumble, I've got to do it on my tablet. I can't do it on this phone. This thing, I don't know what the problem is with it. Aggravating anyway. So
Well,
There is
sometimes, I mean,
one
when it comes to
new,
video processing, you got to have a little more firepower to your hardware to
yeah,
process video.
yeah,
Their tablets will work on a basic level. Phones work on a basic. Usually, phones are better because the apps are more suited for the phone. But sometimes,
yeah.
man, it just doesn't work. There's lag and delay, and it's just a nightmare. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I got a beautiful day out here. 76. Wind is blowing a little bit and
Nice.
mostly clear, so it's a really nice day. So
Cool.
I hope everybody has a chance to enjoy the weekend. Beware on the Phoenix gun show. They've got a lot of crazy stuff going on over there. I just saw a video from the gun guy, and it's pretty disturbing what they've decided to go to the lengths that they have gone to with some of this stuff. So take
You think the
care.
feds would have a better way to spend their time and money instead of infiltrating local gun shows,
Well,
and harassing,
it's a waste of taxpayer money as far as I'm concerned. If they have a legit reason. But I think this is just up for harassment of the two-way people.
I guarantee what they're trying to do, and we had a discussion on this before we went live. I guarantee they're going to be trying to catch people buying 80% anything and taking it with them into California, which may be legal anyway. But then they're going to say, well, we stopped 150 ghost guns from coming into California. See, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, first of all, it's not a gun. You define it as a 80%.
That's right.
Receiving block or whatever you title it as, not a serialized firearm. So don't sit there. That's like saying a kit car is a race car when it's still in the box. Oh, that's a deadly race car. There's no wheels on it. There's no engine in it. There's no tires in it.
That's right.
And I don't know what potential evil you're stopping with it, but it's just parts. You define them. And now you want to say we can't have them. So I don't know. That just ticks me off. Just be wary of who you buy from and what you buy. And just, obviously, guys, we don't like some of these laws better than anybody else, but just don't be an idiot. Just know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. You're going to get across the state line and then get pulled over because, you were filmed buying a polymer 80 or something and a barrel or who knows, it's just ridiculous. So yeah,
it is. I want to say hi to everybody on the panel and in the chat. We'll be riding along here listening.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right. And that's Daywolf over on Rumble, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Check out his channel on Rumble. If you guys want to watch some awesome reloading videos and some great content, get over there. So, all right. Also joining us, AWAG 1000. How's it going, brother? How you doing, man?
Howdy. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure being here.
Now, do you have any experience at all with black powder revolvers?
Absolutely not. Last time I touched black powder, it was probably just to set off a pile of black powder just for giggles.
Well, it's good having you here because, you might ask questions or wonder about something, and you represent that person that's here watching that knows nothing about it. So it's always good to have you here for the camaraderie and just to be part of the discussion. And, who knows? Something ballistic could come up, and you're a genius with that. So, we'll refer back to AWAG if we need to. All right, man. Cool. And also joining us, we got Squib. He's awake. He's alert. He's fresh and lively. Squib, what's going on in your world, man? How you doing?
No, I'm only into my first cup of store brand coffee. I didn't even feel like getting up early and doing a review on some of the coffee I brought back. Maybe, I'm going to have to do that. Maybe tomorrow I'll get up early. Oh.
No Arbuckles. But it was wonderful having you as a guest in our beautiful state, you and your family, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. It was a good time. So it was a very good time.
I appreciate you having us.
Hey, it was awesome, man. And we'll let Squib's gonna have all kinds of content coming out on his channel from all the stuff that he picked up and stuff. So
I'm still working on the stuff from June, man. Heck, I've even got stuff from October. I haven't even.
Bro, you can't rush perfection. You cannot rush perfection.
Oh, here we go.
That jalapeno ranch review you did that I watched this morning was magical. That makes me want to go buy it right now. So,
well, it's available on Amazon if you don't have a Whataburger nearby. I'm going to have fun editing, and I'm sure I'm going to get right back in the saddle with work on Monday. I don't know if my schedule is going to be as screwed up as it has been lately.
Yeah.
And that really eats into filming and editing and driving to locations and all the other fun things. But definitely was able to work the YouTube thing into my little road trip
Oh, heck
And
yeah, dude.
I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better at doing the family vacation and the YouTube thing all in one.
Anything could potentially be reviewed. The bar of soap in the hotel room, the breakfast. I did a review of the breakfast at Spring Hill Suites in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I sat there with my camera and ate my breakfast and talked about the quality of what they have to offer. Anything can be reviewed, dude. I'm telling you.
I literally shot a come and go customer service review in the parking lot of the Casey's across the street.
Oh, shots fired. Those are bitter rivals, by the way. Casey's and Come and Go, they are. So, oh man. And Squib did a breakfast pizza review from the Come and Go that he stopped at. Was that was going out or coming back from Thunder on the Prairie? I can't remember.
That was going out from Thunder on the Prairie. I actually stopped at a cemetery in central Iowa to visit Al Swearingen's grave. For those who are fans of Deadwood, the real Al Swearingen is buried in the middle of Iowa in an unmarked grave in a cemetery in the middle of nowhere. And I spent the night sleeping in a rest area. And the next morning I went to the first stop and I got some really lousy coffee and some decent breakfast pizza. Not as good as Casey's, but some decent breakfast pizza. And then I found a little scenic place to park along the Iowa River to film it. So just having a little fun and doing my little history stuff. When I go out on the road, I'm the guy that stops to see the second biggest ball of yarn and the historical marker for it. So we did some Oregon Trail stuff, which I absolutely recommend. I mean, you might have played the video game when you were younger.
You drop off grandma because she had dysentery and keep on moving.
Yeah. And the thing is, in some of these places where they've got the history preserved and you've got the people doing the living history reenactments and things like that, you really get to see exactly how far apart these things were, how difficult the terrain was. And when you hear the stories of how, what they had to do to survive, or this year they had a drought or a blizzard or they were attacked, or, I mean, just some of the stuff, I think it gives you a better appreciation. It's not like in the movies, where they, it never rains, it never snows unless it's part of the plot, where they always look, if they look dirty, it's because the makeup artists are making them look dirty and just all this other stuff. It's really interesting to see how we used to live, where we came from. And I think as much of our history that's being rewritten or erased or removed, it's a good idea to get out there and see some of it. And the kids might be a little bit bored with it, but my older son told me last year that he misses our family trips where we would go places and do things. So don't think that they're just completely bored and they pay attention more than you think. They're not going to admit it to you. They're not going to give you the satisfaction.
Yeah. Kids have a BS detection factor you can't imagine. Plus they love those things. They don't always admit it because sometimes it's not cool to admit that they had a good time, but they do enjoy getting out, having fun. And there's going to be little creature comforts they might complain about, like no AC or no Wi-Fi. But I mean, hey, I was a little kid. I'd always read comic books on our road trips to places and bring my G.I. Joe guys with me, my Transformers. But I still love the trips. I have so many memories of going to Estes Park, Colorado when I was a kid. We used to go every summer with my family and all the stuff we would do. I mean, it was just great, and it's all part of the youth experience. Yeah.
You get to experience too some stuff that isn't in your state, not just the landscape and stuff like that, but like restaurants. There's restaurant chains that aren't where you're at, or other things like that where you're not at, and that sort of thing. Sometimes the kids like that and they remember that, and then they want to go back to Whataburger, right? Apparently, I have to take my son to a Perkins next time we go out.
Diligence way better.
He saw it on YouTube, and apparently that's all it takes. Wow, if that's the case, why
Perkins and Village Inn are basically, they're almost identical. They might have a few differences, but they both have pies. They both have breakfast. There's a few things Perkins has that Village Inn doesn't have, but I think Village Inn's better. Yeah.
My guess is Perkins is the Western version of Eaton Park.
I'll tell you, those Perkins restaurants are nice.
They're good. Don't get me wrong. They're good, and the coffee's great. But I was always more of a Village Inn guy. I mean, Perkins is fine. Yeah. I just always like Village Inn. But yeah, we need to have a little diner showdown at some point. So
yeah.
That's cool. All right, man. Well, glad to have you here, and you're one of the reasons why I'm doing today's podcast, and I've got you to blame for my newest addiction again, Squib, the black powder revolver. And keep looking at these Uberti and Pieta websites, and I'm like, oh, I want one of those. I want one of
yeah.
those. I want one of those.
Well, what you do is look at what they offer, and then go Google it and look up the history. Now you're going to find that some of these are reproductions that they never made. They never, for example, yours, like I said, they made one prototype as far as I know in that caliber, but otherwise, though, some of these are mainstream. Some of these are like reproduction of one version of it. They made 3 or 4 different versions of it, and they only copied this one, so it's the rarest one. And of course, that's, you know, I mean, there's more around today than there were back in the mid 19th century stuff. But other ones that aren't like complete fabrications or exaggerations, you start to see the history, and you're like, wow, they made 100,000 of these, or they only made 2,000 of these, or they were carried by this, you know, military organization, or you know, they were still using them in the late 19th century, you know, because they were out there and they were affordable, or just other things. And once you start to get the history, I think you might appreciate them more. They're a lot more work. They're different to clean. They're different to do this. They're not for everybody. They're definitely not for everybody, but you definitely get the history. I was wearing one of my new model Navy revolvers around Deadwood, South Dakota, in a Duke Fraser Productions holster with an MK Outdoor Journal gun belt. He made me. I wanted a Colin Bohannon gun belt from the Hell on Wheels, and MK Outdoor Journal made me a reproduction Colin Bohannon belt to go with my Duke Fraser reproduction Colin Bohannon holster. And I met up with Duke on the trip, and he said, you know, that the holster is more looks, not function. He goes, you know, whether you're wearing a Colt or a Remington, it's going to hang up in there, but it looks like the one. And I'm like, you tell me this now. Because I've been having trouble drawing it out, and I figured I just needed to wear in the leather, and come to find out that's part of it, but the other part is just the design. It's Hollywood, right? And that's another thing too. With black powder, you can go down this rabbit hole where you start studying history, and you find out the Hollywood is fun and cool, but it's not always accurate. And
that was more of a form over function. With fashion over function is what that was when it comes to Hollywood.
Yeah, fashion over function, whereas in real life it's function and cost. A lot has to do with cost. Not everybody had money back then. So that's what I mean. Black powder is not for everybody, and black powder is not tactical. But black powder can lead you down a rabbit hole where you really start to appreciate America more, because you start to see how hard it was. Imagine panning for gold in the heat, you know, and everything's uphill and steep and everything else like that.
With like wool clothing on.
And with wool clothing on, and you're trying to carry an 1849 pocket model Colt wherever you go and not get this thing wet and not drop it. And, you know, do you have the holster for it? Are you trying to make something where you're just stuffing it in your belt? Because a lot of times they stuff them in their belt. This is what I mean. So black powder is more than just, it used to be, it was an inexpensive way to get into shooting. Today it isn't, because the stuff is hard to get. Right now there's shortages, and the prices have gone way up on these things. You noticed that yourself, Travis.
I bought my Traditions pack on clearance mid-pandemic for $129. Shields had them on clearance. They were clearancing I don't know why, because they've replaced them since then. But yeah, and even then they were $199 everywhere, and now they're $330, $313 MSRP, which that's for the Traditions Ready pack. Now I don't know about the guns themselves, if the MSRPs have gone up on them. I'd have to go back and watch our original.
Way up.
Because when I go to the Uberti and the Pieta websites, we'd have to go back to my original Caliber Corner black powder chat, because I was going to the websites and we were looking at models and we can compare the prices. What do you think they're up? Maybe 30% across the board, $100 per model?
I would say they've doubled or quadrupled.
Yeah, I was going to say doubled.
Wow. Yeah, because some of these are pushing $700-800. It's like, okay, now. So, I mean, we don't want to. So here's a couple things that people should know. We're not trying to like scare people away from getting into black powder. Like Tony out there says that he's got a couple revolvers. He just keeps them around as display pieces. They look nice on the wall. Looks kind of cool, just kind of sitting around. It's like, is that your cowboy gun? You know? So you can buy them and have them as just appreciation pieces, you know? But like, if you want to get one and you don't want to spend that kind of money, you can always check like pawn shops. You can check garage sales. A few people have picked them up at garage sales. You can check estate sales, auctions. You might be able to get a good deal on one. You want to inspect it obviously ahead of time, and there's always a chance you could buy something that's going to have issues, but you know, you don't have to spend the $354, $500 on one if you want to. So I'd say the Pieta, the Ready Pack is one of the least expensive buy-ins that you're going to find in the market right now. So that's why I'm kind of glad I got it, but there's other ones out there that I wish I had. So
yeah, and it can help connect you to history. When you go to some place that's got some of these on display and you're going, I got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of history here, I'll quit running my mouth about. I get so excited about these things. So
No,
back
it's
up
cool,
and
man.
let
It's fun.
Rich White come in here. He's definitely a scholar of history.
Well, more people buy our products after watching our show than other podcasts out there. It's 77% of the time, 100% of the time, somebody buys something after watching our podcast. So yeah. All right, hey, let's let Rich White go ahead and introduce himself and talk about what he has to offer and what he does. And go ahead, Rich, take it away, man. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
To Squib's point about the history thing, somebody, I'm not going to mention names on this panel right now, may have a primer series that he did on guns from the Wild West on his live show a couple years ago. If people want a good introduction to the history on these things, they can go over and watch the full 2-hour plus episode that was done on them.
That's the director's cut. That's on your channel, isn't it? That's over on your channel?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your shows. What are your shows that you have to offer? When are they? If people want to go check it out and they're interested in the content, because you've got good discussions on this stuff too. So where are you and where can they find you?
Yeah, the channel is Unloaded Media, and Saturday nights we usually do a wrestling chat at 9:05 p.m. Eastern for fun, because if you do everything serious every week, you're going to burn yourself out very quickly. So we do the wrestling thing, as a breakup of the serious stuff to go and have fun. But we do have a serious news story on the wrestling front tonight, because Vince McMahon is in all kinds of trouble legally. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes.
He seems like a good guy, but that just doesn't surprise me, the way that you'd run things for a semi-pro sports association thing, and the whole business aspect of it. And it would be hard to keep the money clean just because of how it has to run. But
there's definitely aspects of embezzlement involved. But if you want to know all the specifics, if you haven't seen any of the other channels that cover wrestling on their story, watch tonight, because Vince could be in some serious trouble here. There was a scandal that blew up a couple weeks ago, and it's only getting worse.
Brother.
Well, and the wrestling crowd is very dramatic anyway. It's a bunch of guys. I mean, professional wrestling is, and there's nothing against it. It's soap opera drama for men, is what it is, And I loved it, and I watched it. I bought the toys and loved watching it every weekend. And I've been to several events and stuff, and I was cheering when they had Monday night over in Lincoln, Nebraska, a couple weeks ago. That was sweet. I was watching that episode from down in Texas, and But and the whole community gets involved in it, and then throw the YouTubers in on it, and it's just going to be a massive what to do from that. It's going to shake up the professional wrestling world altogether. So
professional wrestling is a soap opera mixed with an action stunt show, is what it is, disguised as a sport. That's the best way to describe it.
There you go. It's a semi-real. It's real action, but the stories are there to harness the audience.
Those guys and girls are definitely athletes. I mean, some of the moves they pull off, the flips and stuff, it's insane the amount of athleticism that they have. And it's nothing like back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, you'd have a guy put in an armbar and hold an armbar and sit in a ring for an hour. The moves that these guys and girls are doing today is absolutely ridiculous, and nobody back then would have thought they would ever see in the ring.
Yeah, the athleticism and what the damage these people potentially do to their bodies. I mean, it's the entertainment factor is up there, Yeah. Well, hey, all right, and your shows. When are your shows on? Because I always have a habit of cutting you off because I always get to you last.
Saturday one, like I just said before we got on to discuss the whole wrestling, what is professional wrestling, is at 9:05 p.m. on Saturday nights. That's Eastern, all times Eastern on my channel, because I'm on the East Coast. So, and then Sunday nights we do This Week Unloaded, which is our general gun, politics, whatever else chat. That's Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Very cool.
And again, if you go over to that channel and look for, I think we just called them Wild West Guns, part 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. There's a multi-part where we cover black powder rifles and shotguns, black powder handguns, and the self-contained cartridge revolvers and the self-contained cartridge rifles and shotguns. So there's a primer on all 4 types of firearms that you would have found commonly used in what the period that we call the Wild West. So if you want a good primer that'll get you started down the trail on the history of those types of firearms, and we look at some of the recreation ones on there too and talk about them and everything. So if you want I don't know if Squib was there for any of those episodes.
No, I was about to say I listened to him on playback later, and I was face palming. I regretted not being there because Outcast doesn't know jack crap about guns. And when you,
ouch.
yeah.
That
Just every time he would say something, he's my friend, but every time he would say something about those, I was just like cringing and going, just a historian in me was going, yeah. So that's my own fault for not showing up. That's what I get for not missing staff meetings, right, Rich?
Yeah, apparently.
Hold on a second. I'm putting up an important banner here. Here we go.
For missing, not missing. Boy, good
Here we
grammar.
go. How about that banner, guys?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me screenshot this one. Print screen. Wait, let me get the cursor out of the way. Print
Travis
screen.
P11 gives this one a thumbs up, so we're just talking smack about each other, guys. All right, so
yeah, here we go. I'm saving this one.
there you go.
Make sure you
All right,
text
man.
Rob
There
the
you go.
picture, the picture, Squib.
Here, we'll take it back to
Where are
something
the
a little more
axles on this
serious
thing?
here. Since we're coming up on Father's Day, there we go. Vote Defense Dad out there for Dad of the Year. Vote Nice Strike for President in 2024, and vote Sandhills Media for Senate. So that's it. I'm just going to get it out there right now. Hey, let's give a little shout out to all the people watching on the YouTube side. Outcast is probably going to throw down on him. He's going to punch me the next time he sees me. So Kingpin is out there. Oh, Kingpin, mic drop, LOL. I think I know more about guns than New York Outcast. So Kevin Jung is out there. X Adam 1's out there. Jason Stewart, Squiblips over there and over here. We got, let's see here, Hunting and Stuff with J&J is out there watching today. Defense Dad's out there. Who else is doing? Tactical Fud's watching. Mike's watching. Jason Stewart, Tony York. Buck Stanley maybe out there too. Is that right? Let's see. Squibload, Ozzy Orsborn, Robert Lawler's out there. Mike's out there too watching today. Man, we got a good crowd this morning going on. So what I want to do is just talk about, so before we really spend the bulk of the time talking about the guns, let's talk about some of the items that you might use. If you go buy this Traditions Ready Pack today, right, what are you going to get? What do you maybe want to swap out and so on? So I want to talk about some of the tools of the trade. I've got stuff in here. There's a billion accessories you can buy to go do the black powder thing at the range, right? So Squib, first of all, the stand that we held the guns in to put the guns into reload, that made life so much easier. So somebody's going to get into it. It can be frustrating when they're trying to balance it and pour and use the ramrod to get the ball in there and stuff. Where do you buy the stand at for the revolver? Is that just an Amazon thing or an eBay thing, or is there a specialty company that you can recommend? Because you had yours at the range and it was fantastic. It made life so much easier because you can leave the gun, you can walk away from it. Where do you get that stand at?
I bought mine at Cabela's, but you can buy them online. You can make them. Actually, if you go to Small Caliber Arms Review, he has a video where he makes one. You can put adjustments in there. You can make it specific to one size or another. You can try to make it a little bit adjustable, because when you go from a pocket model to a walker, it's a bigger profile. So the stand is going to hold the revolver in place, and it's going to point it up, so it's easier to load. It speeds it up. This is something you'll find when you get into black powder. You can do almost everything with just a handful of items. I mean, the revolver has everything it needs to load usually, right? But it's slow. You can speed up the process by buying different things. But yeah, here it is on Amazon, and it's the same one I got at Cabela's, and you can probably buy it at a couple different websites that specialize in black powder stuff.
And this is made by Tradition, so you're getting the actual company itself. And this is what you essentially put your black powder revolver. Now, how about this? I want your opinion on this, because I didn't realize that this exists. It doesn't surprise me, but it does. They have just a cylinder stamper, just a cylinder reloading stand.
Yes. If you go to a channel called Black Powder Shooter 44, he shows that in his video. And what you can do is you can load in a few different videos. Yeah, there's a few different kinds.
Would this be better than the revolver stand, or is this a bad idea?
This is like reloading or anything else. It's opinion based. So you might say, I'd rather just pop the cylinder out and load it with this, as opposed to loading it on the revolver. You can do either or. That's just it. There's so many different ways you can do this. You can use the revolver to load it. You can get one of these stands and load the revolver, or you can just load the cylinder. Another thing is you can buy spare cylinders and swap them out, but at $85, $95 a cylinder, $150 for the Lamat. Having a spare cylinder, it's going to be the most expensive mag you ever bought. So I only keep spares for my Remingtons, but that could speed things up. So this is just a way to get you more out of your range time.
Here's something I want to point out to everybody. If you want, I track price history on Amazon for everything I buy. This stuff is now at an all-time low. So this stand was pushing $37 just like a couple days ago, and now it's coming in at $16.99. So I'm actually going to buy one here before the end of the episode. And I looked at that other one, that cylinder revolver stand, that cylinder revolver press was also at an all-time low too. So this might be a good time to think about buying some of this stuff if you're getting into it, because this could be a good sign that prices, maybe other than the guns, prices are just starting to kind of go back to where they were pre-pandemic.
I bought mine for $20 at Cabela's. I would say right now buying accessories is a good idea, only because nobody's out there shooting their black powder revolvers because they're having trouble finding powder and percussion caps mostly. Percussion caps are out there. I found them, but they're a lot harder to find than primers. And a lot of people don't like to use the synthetic substitutes. They want the real black powder, and that is on hiatus until next year. The company that makes it in the United States is going to be back up to production next year, from what they told me. The stuff that's coming in from overseas is trickling in. So if you're that stubborn that you're not willing to use a substitute, or you can't find percussion caps, then you're not shooting. So that means that place that you went to buy, X, Y, or Z that was out of stock might be back in stock right now, or their prices might be down. So if you're going to definitely get into this, the problem is if you don't know what you're doing, then you really might not know what accessories to buy.
So before we go more into the accessories, there's a question here from Patriot in the Dark, and Squib, I want you to answer this. Ask Squib if the laws have changed to purchase order black powder recently, states blocking online ordering like Michigan. And I know Illinois, I think you have to run a 4473 to buy a black powder revolver in Illinois. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ohio's done that too recently. We were talking about it on one of the shows. I think Jason Stewart was saying he wanted to look into one. I think it was Jason, might have been somebody else, but somebody who was in Ohio was saying that they were having trouble getting one bought and ordered because a lot of places were saying not sold in Ohio.
Michigan didn't block online orders of black powder revolvers. I had 3 of them shipped to my house this year. So, yeah.
Maybe I wonder if there's certain districts or cities or counties where they won't ship to.
That could
like
be
Detroit, maybe, or something.
That could be something. It could be a local thing. I know there are some states that don't allow that sort of thing, but you can still have it. It's not a firearm. Okay, so legal. Yeah. The federal government says a black powder revolver is not a firearm, whether it's an authentic one, because some people do shoot the 200-year-old guns. Okay, an authentic one or a reproduction. And if you were going to try to use this thing, I mean, it's just like any other firearm. It's a tool that's designed to kill. It could, but this is not going to take on the SWAT team. I don't care who you think you are.
Yeah, we don't have Bloods and Cribs doing drive-bys with black powder revolvers yet. Now, the Japanese former president or ambassador was recently killed with a homemade gun. So who knows what the U.S. government's going to go after next? At
some point, yes, this could be on the endangered list. This could be on the
we got now, guys. Get the accessories for it. And the other thing I will say is it got to a point during the pandemic where black powder, and it didn't help that in Nebraska we have a very stout following of black powder shooters. Like, stuff sold out. All the rifles, all the revolvers sold out. All the supplies sold out. You weren't finding patches or even lead balls for a long time. So stuff does sell out, seasonal. But then the pandemic, I don't know, people were just panic buying because it's like, God, what if this stuff disappears?
Well,
so
part of the problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Part of the problem with that was a lot of the companies that make these are over in Italy, and Italy had a severe lockdown where you couldn't do anything over there. So you had the same issue with some Beretta parts and stuff where it was hard to find them because Italy was in such a lockdown that they weren't making anything.
Yeah, that was the other part of it too, is the production facilities were down, which chewed up the inventory, which then when it comes back in stock, but back to MSRP, instead of having a bloated inventory where they're clearancing stuff down to move stuff out. And there were people during the pandemic that were selling, the black powder items at MSRP. But if you looked around, like I said, I bought mine locally on clearance. There were a lot of places that were way below MSRP, so you could find it if you wanted it. So, all right. So now the next thing here, this is an interesting comment that's made. Is it Tony out there? I haven't seen black powder for sale in a long time, in a long while. Now, I will say this is the powder that I used in my black powder video that I made. I don't know if Squib used this also. Squib, you bought some of this. This was $38. I've got a pound of 777, triple FG. This is what I used in my Traditions, my Pieta, and it ran just fine. Every shot basically went off. No, other than having some percussion cap issues, which were not the powder's fault. This stuff ran great and it cleaned up really easily. So if you can't get old school black powder anymore, consider just going with this. And I'm not pushing this company, but they make great powder. I've used them before for reloading in general. The smokeless powder rounds. So Squib, what do you think about this? Pretty good contender as a decent substitute, or what?
So when we were shooting revolvers and using your powder there, I thought it was really good. It's the first time I've used 777. I know other people that use it. It works just fine. We also use the Pirate XP, which is synthetic. That worked just fine. In my area, they sell the 2FG, which is what you would use in a black powder cartridge, like my Martini Henry. However, you could use 2FG in a revolver. It just, the burn rate isn't conducive to the optimum performance. So in your area, the 3FG is available. That's why I picked up one and brought it home. I do have black powder. I've got a black powder 10 that's 22 years old. So I still got powder in it. If you take care of it just like you would smokeless powder, you won't have any contamination issues. Black powder, okay, so this is what happened. The company that was making black powder, GoX, had a factory fire at their factory in Louisiana. And they just kind of went out of business. Company that makes model rockets, who also does ordnance for the military, bought GoX. They're rebuilding the factory.
Was it Estes?
Yes, Estes. Yes.
Okay.
Their energetics version or division, the one that does ordnance for the military, bought GoX.
Okay.
They bought GoX. They're rebuilding the factory. The last time I talked to them, they said we should be shipping beginning of 2023. So they're keeping the factory in Louisiana. They're rebuilding it. They're doing all this stuff, and don't expect to see it at your Cabela's in February of 2023 and just buying it at but they're keeping the label, they're keeping the brand, they're keeping all the this. It's going to be Estes Energetics, but it's still going to be GoX and et cetera, et cetera. There are some that come in from overseas, I think from Eastern Europe, but I haven't seen those in the longest time. I don't know if because of the situation over there, they're putting all their efforts into making other stuff. If because I don't know if they use the same equipment or same line or same factory to make the black powder as they do the smokeless, and that I don't know enough about what they do over in Eastern Europe. But a lot of people who are shooting black powder today bought their black powder a long time ago and are setting on it. They have it and they're setting on it. It's just like buying reload supplies. All the people that said, oh man, ammo prices are going up, or I can't find ammo, I'll just jump into reloading. And then they go over there and find out it's all bought out. And people like me who've been doing it for years ago, and I bought all my crap years ago. And it's the same thing with black powder. If you see somebody doing black powder videos right now and they're just, loading and shooting, it's because they bought their stuff in 2016 or 2000 or 2005 or maybe even 1990 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But they will be coming back. There are people who will not shoot the synthetic substitute. They will not use 777. They will not use Pyrodex. There's black powder or nothing. I got to tell you that I've got some guns that like the synthetic better, and I got some guns that like the black powder better. You can make your own homemade black powder. It's not illegal to make it. Now, it is illegal to sell what you make. You need a federal firearms license to sell it. Okay. But you can make your own black powder. It's not easy to make, but it's not impossible to make. It's kind of a royal pain. You can make your own percussion caps too. You can do that. It's kind of a royal pain. There are videos out there to show you how to do that if you really want to put all the time into it. Or you can just wait for the stuff to come back into stock.
Yeah. I mean, the chemicals that you need to make the black powder, are those hard to acquire, or do you have to get some sort of a handler's license for that at all, or not? Is it?
No.
They're just common chemicals. Okay.
You can order the stuff off of Amazon, and you can make it's charcoal and I can't remember the other stuff, but it's
saltpeter and sulfur, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. And then you more or less mix it together. I'm going to get real basic here because I've never done it. I've only watched it and said, nah, I ain't doing that. You mix it together in water. You make these cakes out of it. Then you crush the cakes, and then you kind of smash it up into granules, more or less. Why you have to solidify it and then smash it up, I don't know. I've only watched a few videos, and that was just like the percussion cap videos, how to make your own percussion caps. I don't have the time. I do not have the time, so I'm not even going to get into it.
So let's
you got
talk
to
about
be
those
extremely careful. If
Oh
you're
God,
going to be making
guys, we're
that
seeing
stuff.
if you're going to go make your own black powder, please, any of this, any of this,
I'll
please
be
be
right
very,
back.
very careful. Go follow all safety procedures. Minimize static electricity. Don't make this stuff in February if you live in a place that has no air moisture. Okay, we want you to be careful if you do that. So you really, really got to know what you're doing. I'm not encouraging it or endorsing it at all. I'm just going to say, just buy it when you can get it. Wait for it to come back out and be safe. Obviously, okay. Now let's talk.
Don't have open flame. Don't be one of these morons who's smoking a cigarette while making this stuff. Otherwise, though, it's just like smoke. It's fairly stable. Now, I will say this: black powder will ignite faster than smoke. I've got a video where I show smokeless powder and black powder just poof, right? And I mean, black powder goes up fast. Black powder doesn't have the pressure, but black powder is a lot more
volatile.
Yeah. But overall, though, the stuff is fairly stable. It's just like reloading. You know, if you're afraid to reload because you think you're going to burn your house down or blow up, then I guess don't get into reloading. But if that was the case, we'd have a lot more people blown up and burned down because they've been doing this stuff since the mid 19th century. And it's fairly, I mean, I'm not saying be reckless with it, but it's not, you know, like, I don't want to have a pound of black powder in my house. It might blow up and it's like, no, dude, it ain't like that. I mean, go ahead, put your cigarette out and see what happens. You know, but even then, it's still not going to blow up your whole house. So now, don't get me wrong. You put it in the right stuff. Yes, you could make something that is not only highly illegal, but highly dangerous. But you have to purposely make it that way. It's not something the way it's stored or the way it's used or that sort of thing is going to be a real issue. And I'm not saying black powder revolvers didn't blow up back in the day. If they overcharged them, they could crack the cylinder. Tony York knows all about cracking cylinders. You can do it with smokeless powder too.
Let's talk about the little bits of gold here, Squib. Here you go. Oh, I'll sell this to anybody for $1,000. I'm just kidding. Percussion caps. All right, so there's certain sizes. What is the sizing all about? This is number 10. Is that what I need for my black powder revolver? I got 11s.
You're gonna have to check your manufacturer's recommendation, but most of them use 10s.
Yeah.
Most of them use 11s. Sorry, most of them use 11s.
Were we using 11s when we made the video?
I think we were using 11s. So you use what you do is you check your manufacturer's recommendation. You can either find that on their website or you can find it.
The manual probably says so. You know, you can download the manuals from all the manufacturers.
Yes, the manual is PDF. Yeah. You can download that. But if it doesn't say it there or the manufacturer's website, if you order it online, they usually say in the description for the firearm or for the revolver, I should say, because it's not legally a firearm. I've had people go, it's not legally a firearm. I still call it a firearm. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that information is fairly easy to find. I've got a few that use 10s. Most of mine use 11s. If you buy the aftermarket nipples, you want to get rid of the Pieta or Uberti nipples. That's what you put the percussion cap on.
So for somebody who doesn't know, there are these little parts that screw on the rear of the cylinder that your percussion caps rest on. So that's
yes.
We're talking to the total noob here in today's episode. So
So if you don't like those, if you're having cap jams or you're just having issues fitting them on there are two companies that make these in America that make aftermarket ones that you can take a special wrench, unscrew the original, screw the new one in, you put a little anti-seize on the thread, screw it in, you're good to go. Some people take them out every time they clean them. I don't, but some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. The aftermarket ones, when you order them, it will say in the description whether or not they use number 10s or number 11s. So make sure you have the caps that work that. You might change out. You might have all 11s and you've got a couple that use 10s and you might buy the aftermarket just so you can use all 11s or something like that, right? So that's something that's available out there. You can interchange them. I've put 10s on guns that you're supposed to use 11s and 11s on guns and they will work. They just don't fit as well. So
Up next, the lead balls. What do we need to know about this? Mine came with 44 caliber. These are .454 diameter lead balls. So I have these that came with the Tradition spready pack, but then I also got the .454 Hornady lead balls, which you can get these at Shields has them in stock. So what do we need to know about buying? What does that? Because there's .454, .452. What do we need to know about the actual diameter of the lead balls?
So you want to use the diameters designed for or smaller. You could probably jam a bigger one in there if you had to. So for this one, 44 caliber revolvers are really 45 caliber. They're 4.51, 4.54, or 4.57. For example, my Walker's a 4.57, right? My Lamat is a 4.51. Yours being a 4.54, we could jam 4.51 balls in there all day long, and they'll fit just fine, right? 4.57, we'd have to shave them or cram them down in there, and you really don't want to do that. It's not gonna destroy it, but you could have issues. So just go with the diameter they call for, and that's one of the things that's nice about yours is because it's a 4.54. If you've already got something that uses a 4.54, 4.51, then what you already have would work in that. For example, my Dancing Brothers is a 4.54. So if you had one of those and then you bought this Traditions, then you don't have to find the other size. And usually when you find them, they're stacked up together. They got 32, 36, 30, 32, 36, or 31, 36, and 44, which is 45, stacked together. And you just got to read the fine print in there to see what the actual diameter is, because there's a couple different ones for each caliber. But if they're short on one, like 36 was unavailable for the longest time, right? And then it just came back into stock. So if they're short on one, having a revolver in another ball size is kind of nice. It's just, what do you want? Do you want a minimalist, or do you want to have everything? It's personal preference.
So then my kit, which this is one of the first things I upgraded, didn't even use this when I was with you at the range day. What is this?
So that's a powder measure, and it looks like it's got a stem there, like on a tire gauge, and that's about what it is. It's graduated
on it, so you can see the number of grains that you're putting in it. Yeah.
So
instead of this, you were using this.
It's the same thing, but with a spout.
Yeah. This
makes
made
it easier.
Life much easier, because you could measure out what you needed. You fill it up, and then you cut off the top. You just slide across the top and then pour it in. Okay. So this was an upgrade, right? I bought this one. This is the one we were talking about in Shields, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Mine did come with this. This is your powder dispenser, right?
Yes, and what you've got is just a spring-loaded lever there that opens up. So the powder is inside the larger end, and then the smaller end is tapered a funnel. So what you do is you put your finger over the end and push down on the lever and turn it upside down, and it dumps. It fills the volume of that funnel, that nozzle. And you can put a different nozzle on some of them so that you measure 15 grains or 25 grains or 35 grains or 50 grains or whatever.
I think we did 30 grains for my revolver. Now I did buy this, but we don't need this. Is this not going to work?
It's the same thing as the brass one, except it might have a different, because of the size of the nozzle. It might throw a different charge. Okay.
So now these are also designed to not spark. That's why they use brass instead of composite.
Yep.
Okay, then the other important thing was what do we end up calling it? Cylinder frosting? Because it's like cake frosting.
Yes.
Okay, so we have boar butter. What's the problem with boar butter? Is like the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to black powder shooters. What is boar butter? First of all, it's a specific product. It is a brand name, right? Okay, so what is boar butter? Yeah,
boar butter is a brand name like Kleenex. It's made by Thompson Center. And it's yellow. It looks like butter. It's biodegradable. It's actually, you could eat it.
There's this
I'm not recommending you eat it. But what it does is you put grease over the end of the chamber after it's loaded. Now, for me, from my perspective, this is you're loading it and you're carrying it around for the day or for several days or until you use it. And this is to protect it, right?
Yeah.
For other people, it's about making it easier to clean. It actually, if Guns of the West did a video where he showed shooting the revolver without it and the shooting the revolver with, and he's looking down the bore, looking on the barrel, and you could see a difference. It kept it a lot cleaner. Now back in the day, there's
the barrel like a cast iron skillet as it fires. It kind of lubricates and sears and seals
and takes some of that residue with it. Yes.
Yeah.
So another thing it helps do is prevent chain fires.
So what's a chain fire? How can a chain fire happen? You get your cylinders all packed. Do you have to use the boar butter at the end of your cylinder?
You do not have to use it.
No, you don't have to, no.
But you should, because it's greasy, it's a little messy, but you're just sealing off each of those chambers in the cylinder to prevent sparking. So what is chain fire? What's the worst case scenario?
Chain fire is when more than one cylinder ignites when you drop the hammer on the percussion cap.
Yeah. So essentially, you could have all six go off.
Yeah, potentially you could. Yes.
Yeah.
That's worst case scenario, but yes, that is.
And every time you pull the trigger, the smell of the Guns of the West cylinder frosting, as I like to call it, smells like hamburgers cooking, because it's essentially, this is made out of goat tallow and beeswax. Is that right?
sheep tallow and beeswax. Different people
Sheep
have
tallow
different
and beeswax,
formula.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different people have different formulas. They the ratio and that sort of thing. Okay, so
You
here's the
just
deal.
scoop it on your finger and you just coat the end of the cylinder with it.
Yes,
Your
that
chamber,
stuff
each
is
chamber. Yeah.
that stuff is really thick. It's not like boar butter. It's really thick. So it's a little bit messy. It gets things a little bit greasy, but it's a personal preference thing. Some people don't use it at all. Some people use it every time. I'm kind of in the middle. I actually put it on the first cylinder when I load it at home before I take it to the range, and then after that, I usually don't use it. When we were doing it at the range, I was putting it on every time so you could see how it's used.
Yeah.
It's up to you. If you want to use it every time, that's fine. If you don't want to use it at all, that's fine. I prefer the Guns of the West stuff over boar butter only because I've used boar butter for a couple decades and the stuff gets runny. It gets it's out there everywhere. You don't have to special order it. It's all over the place. It works. But in high temperatures, or if you leave it out in direct sunlight, it will get runny. And in which case, if you have any residue on the face of your cylinder, any black powder residue, and you get a spark, that boar butter the whole thing goes up. The front of now it's not going to blow up your gun, but you're going to get a fireball, and it probably make you pee your pants.
Yeah, so especially we were shooting in 90-degree temperatures, and we were using the Guns of the West stuff held it. It didn't thin out at all. It stayed on. It stayed in its kind of putty, like it was almost like a thick Crisco is what it reminded me of, and it didn't melt at all. And we were using it in direct sunlight in 90-degree temperatures when we were at 85-degree temperatures. Now this Traditions, this reminds me of the boar butter brand.
Yeah, it is. It's the same thing.
1,000 plus. What if it's repackaged boar butter? Maybe
pretty much it is. Yeah,
it is. Okay,
now I'm not saying that if you have boar butter, you get something with a kit like this or something that you can never use it. I would recommend using it in the winter. Honestly, use it in the winter. The Guns of the West stuff is made in the deserts of Utah, so it is designed to be used in any temperature, hot or cold. He'll go out there shooting in the summer. He'll go out there shooting in the winter, and the product that he makes, he actually uses himself, and it does work. Now there are other ones you could make it yourself. You could buy all the ingredients on Amazon and make it yourself, and there are other people out there that sell it. I just go with that brand.
Yeah, he also has a paper cartridge kit to help you make paper cartridges, which makes loading the revolver easier as well.
If you use those paper cartridges, if you make them successfully, do you still need to use the boar butter?
You can.
Would you, or is it less likely of having a chain fire if you're using a paper cartridge or not?
Nah, that's not really gonna, in my opinion, no. But my thing is, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. Use them on the first cylinder, and after that, no. But once again, this is a personal preference. It's just like what do you use to put the caps on there? What sort of powder measure?
Well, for me, it's what's going to be safest and most not necessarily the most convenient, but what's going to be safest. And I feel like the Old West stuff worked really well. The fact it didn't thin out in extreme heat,
And that's something I liked about it too. But it was a lot messier and greasier than the boar butter. Keep a rag handy, that sort of thing. Yeah. Now, Steve, there's historical accounts of people using lard or bear grease or something like that.
There's questions about that out there in the chat. Yeah, Tony says back in the living history days we used bacon grease.
But back in the 19th century, there's accounts of it, but there's also accounts of not using it, actually not even being recommended by Colt, right? So you've got some people with the history who say don't use it, and other people say use it. Yeah. I say do what you want.
I mean,
Matt sexy says I would use that because I got a fridge load of that. Go ahead. What was that, Rich? Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you really wanted to, for all intents and purposes, you can use a can of Crisco to do the same thing.
But again, do one and maybe let it sit out in the heat and see what happens. You don't want it like running down the front or splattering off all over the place.
Almost any of those are going to do that anyway. So
the Guns of the West stuff didn't, and the
Guns of the West stuff is like the one that doesn't. But
we're not endorsed by them, but we do. I would say if you want a superior product, I would just buy once, cry once. It's what, $12 for a can? Is that right?
Yeah, he's got a website. I'll put a link to it. I'll dig it up, put it up to, there. And I know Dustin, and he's a good guy. He's not selling junk or a gimmick or what, and he makes all this stuff himself. So
you guys really want to support an American-owned small business, this is the way to go.
If you go to his Guns of the West channel, he reviews a lot of these guns. He shows a lot of stuff as far as how to use them, safety tips, things like that. And he He's a good resource to go to if you're new to this and you want to know about different ones. He's a firearms instructor. So first off, he knows all about safety. He absolutely knows all about safety. The second thing is that he has a lot of experience with these, and he does kind of the history thing, and he runs in circles with other people that are into black powder and history stuff. So he's got a lot of resources to work with. He's not the only channel out there. I'll go ahead and pop some links here at the end, or maybe in a comment after you publish it. I'll go check the comment section, and I'll go ahead and list some channels as a resource if you want to study the history or the operation or look at some of the accessories. The fact that he decided to make his own stuff is kind of like there are things out there just like this available to other people, but with or from other people, but with him it's one-stop shopping, and he's making all this stuff based off of his experience, and it works.
Rich, I haven't had a chance to ask you yet. What experience do you have with black powder revolvers? Other than, I mean, you guys discuss them on the podcast. You personally, do you take them out and shoot them once in a while? Do you own any? What do you do?
I don't currently own one. I want to get another one. I had one in the past. They are fun.
Yeah.
That was my grandfather had, we talked about my grandfather before. He had all kinds of different firearms, and he had his black powder guns as well. Rifles, pistols, revolver. People get mad if you say pistol, but technically, if you look at Colt's patent, it says revolving pistol.
I've had people yell at me because I accidentally referred to the revolver as a pistol in cleaning videos. Like, it's not a pistol. It's not a semi-automatic firearm. I'm like, and then there's other people saying, don't listen to that bozo. We don't need to discuss that. That's not relevant. But yeah. Just if I accidentally say pistol, it's because I dabble so much in firearms. The majority are semi-automatic pistols. So I have a habit sometimes of calling all firearms that are handguns pistols, unfortunately. But so I know what this is, but Squib, explain what this is and why this can make life so much easier for you at the range. Especially if you got big meaty sausage fingers. These are a good idea for what? Yeah.
That's a capper. There's so many different cappers out there. That one's a flexible plastic, and that one's good for the Remingtons. It's hard to get in to the little cutout they've got to put the nipples or put the percussion caps on the nipples on a Remington, and I found that one works because it's flexible.
When you open the side gate and you've got a very limited area to put that percussion cap in there, if you got big fingers, I was able to just drop them in.
I've got a review video. On that particular one, but there's another one I've seen out there since I bought that is similar, and then there's ones that are made out of metal that are they're long or they're shaped like a snail. It's actually called a snail capper. Some are made 3D printed out of plastic. There are people making these things overseas. They're making them here. There's different ones, and certain ones will fit your revolver better than others. So you're probably going to end up with a couple different, like that one, a couple different
cappers.
This
one came with my Traditions kit.
Yeah, I don't really care for that one, but there are people that use them, and once again, it comes down to personal preference. Certain things are going to fit, and in worst case, you can just put it on with your fingers or a pocket knife if you have to.
Yeah, I just dropped them in and just took my time. And that's the thing, when I was reloading the gun, I was hyper focused on it, and then I got done reloading. I was like, well, that's kind of a relaxing 10-15 minutes just to sit there and focus on what I was doing and think about every step of the process and stuff. Now, another very handy accessory that I recommend, and we're almost done talking about accessories and stuff, but again, you can always buy a better version of whatever you start off with when it comes to black powder firearms accessories. There's always something better out there, but this was nice. Okay, what is this for?
So that's a spout that you put on your bottle or jug or jar of black powder substitute to help you pour it into the measure, or you could pour it right into the revolver, but I recommend you measure it. You don't just that doesn't work like
filling up your powder flask so much easier. So you can fill it up. You can
because if you just open the top, it's a wide top, and you're just going to spill it everywhere. And at today's prices, or how hard it is to find, you want to try to save as much as you can. If you spill some, it's not the end of the world. If it falls on the ground or whatever, it's not, we're going to catch fire. No, you're fine. You're fine. And back in the day, this stuff was so available and so inexpensive. You spilt black powder all over, you didn't care. Now it's like, oh my goodness.
It's like I was trying to be, we even were like, have the cap. We were like loading it over the cap when we fill it so we'd catch the extra grain so we could pour them back in the bottle when we got done. I was trying to be very careful with the powder. All right, now let's before we look at the guns themselves, let's get into the second most fun part of the black powder revolver experience, the cleanup. So if you check my channel, I did a fairly lengthy video where Squib walked me through the whole process of cleaning the black powder revolver. We used some brushes, we used Dawn dish soap, and a lot of hot water, and that was it. Okay, Rich, what do you want to say about the whole process? What do you think?
It's a pain in the ass.
It can be. Well, I didn't think. I mean, here's the thing, though. Okay, so I make cleaning videos for YouTube. To me, it was no big deal. I mean, I was exhausted that night when we were doing it. I was tired, but it was fun learning how to do something new. And now I've got a little video recording myself I can go back and watch when I go through the whole process again, so I don't miss anything. It is, though, because of how much residue just stays there unless you physically remove each and every little bit of it. It's not like you can just spray on a solvent and brush it out and swab it out and it comes out. It doesn't happen that way with black powder or black powder substitute. So we did pick up a breach brush set, which has 2 different brushes. This was like $4 at Shields. This is going to be for the barrel, and then this one's going to be for the cylinders, or is that
just for tight spaces or whatnot? That's actually that's for like a rifle, but I use it on revolvers. I've repurposed it for revolvers. You could go in the plumbing section of a hardware store and find brushes like that. You might even be able to try to.
You don't want to go with brass, right? Just strictly nylon.
Right? Yeah, nylon, something like that. Back in the day, it might have been horsehair. You might be able to
what they used back then.
Maybe a painter's brush or something like that. I mean, they would, or they would just just get the thing soapy hot wet, rinse it off and try to wipe it down with a rag. And I mean, I don't know what they used in place of Q-tips. Maybe they didn't, so
maybe I have no idea. Maybe they just used cloth and they pushed it in there with like a stick or something. I mean, it's Q-tips really made it nice too. And I did not take off the nipples off the cylinder, but if I had, I mean, I think there's probably specialty brushes you can get for that too, right? To clean that area.
Yeah, you could use that smaller brush to try to get in there, that sort of thing. But and some people do take the nipples off every single time they clean them. And if that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. Just keep some anti-seize handy and make sure you've got the right wrench, which just like the capper, not always fitting every gun. Not every nipple wrench will fit every gun either. So you end up with a couple different cappers, a couple different wrenches. After a while, you end up with everything you need for every kind that you have. It's just like anything else with firearms. You start building up accessories.
Yeah, this is the one that came with it. That's what I liked about the Ready Pack. At a minimum, they gave you some okay stuff to at least get started for your first trip. But then you're going to start to discover, or when you have friends like Squib that come along with you, you discover there are different items you can get that are not very expensive that make the whole experience much more convenient. And I think that's nice to discover because you had all this stuff and I didn't spend but maybe another $20 on upgrading the stuff that I had. But it's for crucial stuff like a powder measure or some better bore butter or some better brushes, just going for the bare essentials. So you can get into this, especially if you can get this revolver from somebody. Getting started with it does not have to be a very expensive experience.
Yeah, my grandfather was one of those that the nipples had to come off every time when we got home from the range. And guess who was the one that got to clean the guns?
You.
Yeah.
That's why you don't make cleaning videos and I do. So now I got to get shameless plug for myself. Ozzy Osbourne. Travis's cleaning video is great. Yeah.
Yeah. My modern semi-auto handguns, I hardly ever clean them.
I'm just I'm very, very meticulous, except on some of the semi-autos. I don't usually dabble in pulling out the striker and the sleeve and all that stuff. But
I'll lube them up, put a little oil. I hardly ever break them fully down and give them a full cleaning, ever. My grandfather would be appalled at the way I take care of my firearms.
Now, for the cleanup, we've got, this came with the traditions. Squib, have you ever used this? They're easy clean spray solvents or any, what's the advantage of solvents over hot soapy water? Is there any? I mean, what would you say?
So this is personal preference again. Some people may prefer the solvents over. The solvents are going to be water based. They have to be. If they're not water based, they're probably not going to help me out here, Rich. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say deactivate, neutralize. Would it
neutralize? Because the thing is, if you don't clean these within so much time after shooting them, you're going to get corrosion around the firing areas, right?
Little rust spots everywhere. And over time, if you look at some of these old guns in cabinets and on displays or whatnot, they're pitted and corroded. I mean, it's not just their age; it's also from just the way they were
tools. They didn't care about preserving. They used them when they had to use them. They cleaned them when they could clean them. Not everybody had a nice clean sink with clean running water and Dawn dish soap when they were done shooting at the OK Corral.
So here I'm picturing you're out on the trail. You've only got so many provisions with you. There's no source of water. You haven't seen water in days, and what you have is what you have. And for some reason or another, you had to use your black powder revolver, your black powder rifle, right? And you're there going, do I drink the water or do I use it to clean the gun with? You know what I mean? Yeah. So now I will say this, if your revolver jams, if the cylinder stops moving because of all the fouling, a little bit of water sprayed into the arbor there in the front of the cylinder will actually free it up. You could spit on it in the middle of combat. You could spit where the cylinder face meets the arbor that it rotates on, right? And the pin that holds it in place. You could spit right there and move it and free it up so you could revolve it again. Check out a channel called Snappers Antique Firearms Unlimited. He actually proves this out because he owns the original guns. He's got some really nice 19th century. A lot of people who own these really old guns will not shoot them. He shoots them. So he proved that this would be a way that you would free this thing up. But water is key to cleaning these. If you get a solvent, it's going to be water based. There's nothing wrong with using them. Thompson Center makes one. That Traditions one, I don't know who makes that for them. Slip 2000. They make some, and it will work. If you don't want to use soapy water or you don't have access to it for some reason, but you're probably going to end up rinsing it with water anyhow. So if you're used to cleaning modern guns and you're used to using oil and solvents and that just feels right to you, and this is what you want to do, go ahead and do it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at a certain point, you're going to have to rinse it with water, which seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's just because, we always want to keep water away from modern firearms and stuff. And you make a good point here. Cleaning is easy. But for those who don't clean their smokeless powder guns, they will definitely not like cleaning these because, you got this whole takedown scrubbing process.
Yeah, anybody that has the Aegis stuff, this is water-based, so you could use this on your black powder guns as well.
There you go.
But now on the other end, when you're done, dry everything off. You want, the only thing we said you may want to use to preserve the outside of the gun or just a general wipe down, not inside the cylinders, not inside the barrel, would be ballistol because it's mineral oil based, right? It's like natural. Yeah.
The reason I use ballistol is because that's what Guns of the West uses for any of the lubrication or preservation that I've seen him do on his video. And even though I use a lot of oil on my modern firearms, I get that from my military background. Okay. We use a lot of CLP. We just did. The people that complain about you having oil leaking out of your gun.
And it's ready to sit in my safe for 5 years. And when I pull it out, it's going to run.
And that is actually the way ours sat in the armory. So, if you don't like it, don't do it. All right. If you see Travis doing it, they're his guns, not your guns. But
yeah, exactly. It's like you don't like it. Well, I'm gonna wipe it off before I take it out. I'm not gonna just take it.
Me too.
And I want that stuff preserved, and I want the critical contact points well lubricated, ready to go. I'm not gonna be fouling issues. And if I really care, I can just pull something out and wipe it off with a patch and go on. Right.
And that's how I do it. Yep.
Yeah.
But with my black powder, I do the exact opposite. Very minimal, if any at all. And if I do have some on the outside as a preservative, yes, I wipe it off. When you pull it out of the plastic bag, you open up the cardboard box and pull it out of plastic. I've got some unboxing videos. It's got packing oil on there. Okay. You just wipe all that stuff down. And then we fired some caps through your empty cylinders or empty chambers on the cylinder. I've seen people do that before. I personally don't, but we did it on yours because I wanted to show you.
Make sure it's going to function. Just first of all, is it going to go off every time? Is there any problems at all? That's a nice tester. And then after that, you
can take Q-tips or something and run it down, but when it's new, before you shoot it and get anything out. But if you fire some percussion caps in there, it's going to burn out anything that might be left in the flash hole for the nipple or something else like that. I don't do that. I just dump powder in there and run them. But that's me. And that's, once again, it comes down to personal preference. Is there one right way? If somebody's out there saying this is the only way, don't listen to them. Don't, because there's and when you start doing these, you're going to come up with what works for you, what brand works for you, what style works for you, so when you see somebody cleaning with hot soapy water, that might make you cringe. These solvents are an option, but there's no one right way. The way I was taught was literally by the sales guy at Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee in 2000. And I brought that Lamat home and I shot it and I cleaned it the way he said. And I'm like, wow. And the whole time I'm like, I don't want to dump water on this thing. This is total opposite of what I was taught. But I did it and it worked. And that's what I've been doing since. So the way I showed you was the way he taught me, with maybe a few little changes I've made over the years. It is not the only way.
Now, one of the reasons why we don't want to use like CLP or REM oil in black powder firearms for cleaning and preservation is because the black powder could potentially stick to those substances. And that's something that could ignite or light or cause a chain fire, or could just be unsafe in general when you're using the revolver. I mean, that's the reason why you don't want to use the modern gun oils, because they're very sticky. They attract lint and dirt. And yeah, they do. Some of them do kind of dry. Like I use cleanse oil all the time, and it leaves a thin protective coat, but not a greasy coat like CLP. So, I mean, me, who's fanatical about lubricating the guns, right? you got to lose that thought pattern when it comes to the black powder experience, because it's not going to be the same. Like you said, a little bit of balisol, just a little spritz of balisol on a patch, then wipe down the outside of the gun. Because this gun has been in my field box for a month since we cleaned it. No rust, no corrosion, everything is fine. It's perfect. It's good to go. It's ready to go to the range for the next time. The brass isn't like tarnished or whatnot. It's fine. It's ready to go. All right, so now for this next part of the chat, let's actually go visit some of the websites and just see what's available and show you what we're looking at for price. Because, okay, so the revolvers themselves, the MSRPs on them, they're a little bit cheaper than what I thought they were. But still, for what they're asking for the MSRP, I bought the Tradition Ready Packs were selling for $200, gun included before. So we're just going to go over to the Pieta website, and I just chose 44 caliber black powder revolvers. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and share this link. I'll share this link over with everybody else that's watching this right now too. So you guys can kind of check this out if you want to. So this is just, Uberti is awesome. We'll go to Uberti here in just a little bit, or Uberti, however you pronounce it. So at the Pieta site, we got your 36 caliber, your 44 caliber, $250 MSRP to at least get the gun. And then you're probably looking at a minimum of, I'd say, $100 between powder, percussion caps, cleaners, brushes, basic essentials. Just budget another $100. But so as you can see, it's not super expensive to get into. I just started at the 1851 Navy series is what I was looking at. But you can see that it's not super expensive. Is this what I have right here, Squib? The 1851 Navy brass. This is it right here, right? This is my gun.
Yes, that's the one you have.
Yeah, 44 7.5 inch barrel, and then they describe it. So you've got a brass frame, which means that these are not adequate for shooting. What do you want to say? 44 caliber smokeless cartridges. I mean, you can get cylinders, but you have to have a steel frame, right?
Yeah, steel frame is recommended, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got conversion cylinders that you can fire. They don't want you shooting smokeless in that. They want you shooting cowboy loads where you're using black powder, you're using the 2FG and making your own black powder cartridges for it. They actually They actually did conversions on these guns in the 1870s. Or late 1860s, early 1870s, where they would modify them to use modern self-contained cartridges, but those cartridges still used black powder. And if you do reloading and you've never reloaded a black powder cartridge, it's a little bit different. You can't have an air gap in there. You got to stuff it with things like cotton and cream of wheat and stuff like that to keep the air gap out.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that's the way they did it, and they also, did a little bit more with lubrication and things like that. But black powder cartridges are going to have a lower pressure. So if you're going to get a conversion cylinder for one of these, I don't recommend you use smokeless powder. They do have some cowboy loads, which I do believe use smokeless powder, but these are tuned down at the factory to represent the pressure that you'd get from black powder. I've used them in reproductions of guns that were designed to use cartridges that are actually all steel. They could run modern, smokeless powder all day long if you want. But I've never shot a conversion or anything like that. I'm not opposed to it. At some point, I would like to get a conversion 1851 Navy, but just don't think you're going to get away with using a smokeless powder substitute. Use black powder in these, or don't use them.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Lamat. What is it about the Lamat that has your interest? What's you have a Lamat, right?
I have a Lamat. I did a really bad video with it in the beginning of my channel, so I took it down because it sucked. And I loaned it out to somebody who's really good at making videos, and he made a whole bunch of really good videos with it. And I'm glad, because I just don't put that production value in there. So always know somebody who's better at doing this than you. The Lamat is kind of unique. People like it because they've seen it in TV shows and movies. It's in a video game, and people think it's cool because it's got 9 shots instead of 5 or 6, and it's got a shotgun barrel on it. Yeah. This is what I can say about the Lamat. The Lamat is pretty expensive today. It cost $1,000 more today than when I bought it. The very first black powder revolver I got into was this. I just jumped right in. It's like instead of starting with a single shot cricket, somebody hands you an M60. Okay, I just jumped right in with this.
Okay.
And I can tell you that loading the shotgun barrel is a little bit different because you're going to have to buy the lead balls or make the lead balls and pack them in there yourself. The cylinder uses a 451 round ball. There's nothing. I mean, that's just like loading yours, right? The loading arm is on the other side of the barrel, or no, it's right there. It's right there on the side of the barrel. It's not underneath. That throws some people off because when they go to press it in, they think they're going to bend and break this arm right off.
Mm-hmm.
If you chain fire with this, it will hit that arm, and it's a good idea to have a spare arm and screw and pivot and all that other stuff. The little clip there on the end of the barrel, that can easily bend and break. So I keep spare parts for all my guns, but they're different. Yeah, that little clip right there you're showing right there. Yeah, that can bend and break and stuff like that. So there are some issues with this. The underneath the shotgun barrel, you see that little knob there. That's what you pull out to you unscrew the barrel to take the cylinder off to clean it, and that can come loose. Sometimes you might have to pack that with something or replace the spring for it, things like that. The hammer back here, so when you cock the hammer, you see that little round screw in there. Put the cursor on the screw, right there. Straight up there, right there. Yep. In front of that are two little ears. And those ears can shear off. That happened with the guns historically. I've been trying to make a video about this. That happened with the guns historically. That happens with the reproductions too. It will still function. If you go down below, you see this side plate with this funny looking screw here on the side. Here, right there in the middle. You need to make a tool to remove that if you want to take the gun apart. I actually had to make a tool to remove that.
If you get an iFixit kit that's for fixing technical, tech products like cell phones,
phones.
They actually have a bit for their screwdriver set that'll fit that.
It's a number 14, but you have to shave it down. It will not fit unless you shave it down. And if it's hardened steel, I had a guy mill one for me. He milled it perfect, and it snapped right off. I had to actually do one by hand with a file to make it strong enough so it didn't break, but thin enough so it would fit. And this thing is different than the Colts. It's different than the Remingtons. It's a little bit different to work on, things like that. It's cost prohibitive, but it's got a cool factor. It really does.
It's just awesome that this is still in production now, that you can actually get one and have that experience, the whole shotgun barrel thing, They come into the country on a more rare basis. When I bought it, these things were $450, and you could get them all day long. But because of TV shows and movies and video games, they've become more popular. People want them. The thing is, as soon as they see the price tag over $1,000, they go, forget it. And I get it. And I totally get why the replacement grips for these. If you want the wooden grips, if you screw those up, I want to say those are $250.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is a pricey man's black powder, experience, right?
That's not the only guns like that. If you look at the number 3, the Smith & Wessons.
Yep, I want one of those.
They're the same way. The prices went up so much, especially after COVID.
Yeah, the number 3 and a 44 Russian, I want one of those. And it's about the same price. It's ridiculous. But that uses a cartridge, so you've got that advantage. With the Lamat, I figured when I started off, I'd go big or go home. I think the next one I got was the Walker. So
yeah, I'm just looking. It's just fascinating looking at all these different models that you can get and just the differences between them and how they're all unique. And it's just cool, I mean, but some of these do get, like, here's an 1836 Patterson Super DLX engraved, $1,800,
And it might as well be $1,900. You're only $15 off.
Baby. That's only appropriate. $1,885.
Hey, Rich, remember when those things were like $300?
Yeah.
This was $300 at one point.
Yeah, the Patterson was available and it was inexpensive. But the thing is, they will make them for so long and then they'll shut the line down. And then maybe they'll come back into production, maybe they won't. So the demand goes up. So then they're able to sell a whole bunch and raise the price. And then they stop making them and then the demand goes up. If you do living history or you're really into collecting these things or shooting these things, that's the first Colt revolver is the Patterson. That's why it looks so different. You actually have to take it apart to load it. I mean, it's not the same as some of the others, but this is what started the whole Colt revolving pistol thing. And if you're into the history part, that's what's appealing. So the people who really want this will pay that money, and the Italians know it.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you guys. Defense Dad, you guys specifically mentioned Dawn dish soap to clean. Is there something specific about that brand that works, or are we just using it as a blanket term like Kleenex?
In my experience, Dawn is very good at breaking down the grease. I've used it for cleaning cosmoline off of firearms. Boil some water, throw some Dawn in the water as it's boiling on the pot. Throw your parts in there that are coated in cosmoline. Let them boil for a couple of minutes, then wipe them off, and it takes the cosmoline right off of them.
How about some 50-50 simple green in hot water in like a spray bottle and spray stuff down? Do you think that would do it, or is this I like the Dawn better because you could scrub it, it foams up, and you can see that it's working. And the foam coming out of it was like brown, and then eventually you keep scrubbing, and the foam coming out of it goes white, and that's how you know that you've got the residue out of the cylinders, like out of the chambers and stuff. Yeah.
When I got my SKS, it was still coated in cosmoline because whoever had it before I did never cleaned it. They fired it with cosmoline still in the damn.
Bad.
Yeah, that got that. I'm cleaning that. I'm pushing it into like molasses. I had to use my barrel brush to clean the gas tube on that thing. And I'm pushing the barrel brush down. You know what it looks like when a goldfish takes a dump? That's what it looked like coming out the other end of the gas tube.
It's like little Tootsie Rolls coming out. Right before breakfast. Yeah.
I said, the hell with this. I put it in a pot with big like Dutch oven kind of pot on the stove, full of hot water. Let that water come to a boil. I threw some Dawn in there, threw them in there, and let it boil for like 5 minutes. And then I got the tongs and pulled it out of hot water, let it cool down, and wiped it off. Cosmoline was gone. It just destroyed that cosmoline in 5 minutes.
So the reason I say Dawn dish soap is because if you use anything other than Dawn dish soap, you're just a poor, and I don't know you. So all the other dish soaps, in my experience, whether it's Joy or Palmolive or the store brand or whatever, I don't care whether you're doing dishes or you're cleaning your rims on your vehicle or using on your bike. It's like using watered down crap. Why would you buy that unless you're one of these poors? So don't talk to me.
Jeez. Okay. All right.
Hey, I'm a detergent snob. It's Tide and Dawn all day long.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I've been buying Tide Pods for as long as they've been making them now. So
actually, when we wash delicates or we're washing something like a tablecloth or maybe I'm washing my hunting clothes or something. Well, no, I use non-scented stuff for hunting clothes, but certain things I'll use Tide for. But yeah, I use cheap Members Mark, which is probably made by Tide. But in which case, I guess with laundry detergent, I'm a poor.
So Kingpin says Caliber Corner is brought to you today by Dawn Dish Soap.
Seriously, for an extra $1, why wouldn't you get the stuff that always works as opposed to stuff where you got to use 3 or 4 times as much and still don't get the?
That's a good point. You're not saving money in the end.
What's up, Rich? So my wife has to use the all clear because of her damn skin allergies.
See, that could be
that could be something all the time, but then she started a couple years ago. She started breaking out from it, so we had to stop using Tide. And
but see that's a legitimate medical reason. I get that, and you know what? It's your money. Spend it the way you want. But Dawn it always works, whereas everything else is just watered down. I mean, like if you buy Joy or Palmolive or the store brand or something like that, then you probably also buy like store brand mac and cheese. What the heck is wrong with you?
Yeah, my mother bought
the Walmart brand. Great value, like 3 cheese mac and cheese is fantastic for a store brand.
I see a review video coming.
The Walmart like triple cheese that they do is very, very tasty. So
remember the really cheap pink dish soap? My mother bought that one time because she didn't have the money to get the Dawn. That broke my arms out so bad I had to go to the doctor and get it.
Chewed the finish off of your black powder revolver when you tried cleaning it. The bluing starts seeping out of the
skin off my arms.
Oh my God, dude, that's horrible. Yeah. That's horrible.
My mother had to take me to the emergency room because she didn't know what was going on because the skin was literally bubbling by my elbow and just like peeling.
Dude, you didn't buy like industrial like solvent or something?
No, it was that cheap ass pink dish soap.
God. Don't buy pink dish soap, people. Don't buy it at all unless it's from like Bath and Body Works. So real quick, looking at the Uberti website here, you're looking at about $100 more. $100 to $200 more per gun. What's going to be can we justify that money? You guys that have Uberti versus Pieta experience, do you guys think that is there a difference in the craftsmanship, or I'm seeing a lot more color case hardened parts than what we see over on the Pieta website. So the Uberti website,
the quality of the Ubertis is a little bit better. It's not a whole lot better. It's a little bit better. But if you're a reenactor or something along those lines, you'll notice on the Pieta that on the side they'll put big billboard Pieta arms and all that. Uberti puts theirs underneath the reloading lever, the push rod.
Oh yeah,
basically,
the
to reload
ramrod
cylinders.
essentially or whatever. Yeah.
So that when you're looking at it from the side, you don't see that, and it looks more authentic than what the Pietas do.
So did these guys not do an 1851 Navy, or am I just not looking in the right place? Or
You're
maybe
probably
they don't?
not
You think
looking in the right
Pietas?
place.
They all do the
Yeah.
1851 Navy. Okay, so this is
Well, 'cause I went to
another one of
44,
those.
So yeah.
Well, this is no, they do a 36. They do, yeah. Uberti and Pieta. The 1851 Navy is the, what'd you say, the Honda Civic of black powder revolvers? Okay, it's the Glock. It's the Glock 17 of black powder revolvers.
Yeah, the Navy, because it's just so simple. It's just out of the box. It is what it is, and it's very vanilla with not a lot of extra features. It just basically functions.
So here's the deal with the brands. Okay, Pieta and Uberti are the two brands. There was an Army San Marcos, but I'm pretty sure Pieta and Uberti made for them. There's Pedersoli, but I don't think they make revolvers anymore. The Traditions, I think, is all Pieta. Some of these other brands or ones that are made for specific distributors are Pieta or Uberti. They're just, sold through Cimarron Arms or EMF or Dixie Gunworks or something like that, right? But they're all Pieta and Uberti. They all come out of Italy, and that's the way it is. There are people that say Pieta.
Both
they're all owned by Beretta.
Uberti are owned by Beretta.
Yes.
Okay.
But there are people that say the Pieta is a finer craftsmanship. People say Uberti is a finer craftsmanship. There are people that say I don't use Pieta because you can see the markings on the barrel. People say I only use Uberti because they hide the markings. Or people. Here's the deal: Pieta and Uberti make some of the same guns. And then there are other guns that only Pieta makes and only Uberti makes.
Okay.
And it's my opinion, because everybody's got an opinion on this. In my opinion, the price is about the same, the craftsmanship is about the same, and the markings on the barrel for the Uberti, you're going to have to look up close to see them. You are not going to see them if you're doing living history unless you are shoving it right in their face. You are not going to see it. I switch out between Pieta and Uberti. I have an equal number of both. And I have not seen anything with one or the other that has made me say, I like this one better or that one better. I will say this. They don't always copy these things perfectly. So if you are a stickler for exact perfection, there are companies out there that can modify these and change them up and do certain things to them, grind stuff off, refinish it, do this, do that. And there are things you can do at home as well, depending on how mechanically inclined you are, to make these things look a little bit more authentic. You can find gunsmiths who specialize in this and that sort of thing if you want to put the money into them. But if you just want a shooter, Pieta and Uberti, they're the same. They literally are the same.
Hey, Squib.
This is just sorry, go single shot.
Hey, where does Dixie Gunworks fall into all of this?
What do you mean?
I mean, is it a quality company? Are they still in business?
They've been in business forever, and they'll probably be in business forever. Some people don't like Dixie Gunworks because they've had an Optics Planet experience with them as far as shipping and stuff like that. I've never had a bad experience being in the store or shipping. I'm not endorsed by them, but they're a good resource. I mean, I literally walked in there in 2000 with a credit card and no clue, and the guy sold me everything I needed. He didn't sell me more than what I needed. He didn't sell me less than what I needed. And he gave me a crash course right there on the counter. And I was shooting that afternoon and cleaning the gun that afternoon. And I've been having no issues for 22 years. Wow. So I haven't had any issues with shipping. I haven't had any issues with them saying it's in stock and then it's not in stock. It's nice that if you're driving through that part of Tennessee, you can stop at their store. They got an antique car museum in the store, for Pete's sakes. They have a real Mat in with their collection of real old guns. Wow. And they do more than just revolvers. Like if you want to do, like Revolutionary War stuff, they've got that. If you want to do, frontiersman, Kentucky long rifle, fur trapper, they've got all the, in the back of their catalog that I got in 2000, they had an old recipe for hardtack. They are into the reenactment stuff. But there are other companies that do that too. They specialize in this sort of stuff. And they'll help you out with stuff. But if you've had a bad experience with them and you don't like them, I totally understand, because there are people that think that I'm, ridiculous for not liking cheaper than dirt or Optics Planet. Well, to each their own. Yeah. But Dixie Gunworks has some things made for them. Like my Pieta new model Navy, which is a reproduction of the Remington, that I believe is only sold through Dixie Gunworks as their belt pistol. right? So it's got a slightly shorter barrel than the Uberti. Otherwise, they're practically the same, even though the parts aren't interchangeable.
Yeah, I've got a copy of a Spanish dueling pistol, flintlock. That's one of them I have. I've got a buntline style cap and ball 44 revolver, and a couple of the rifles. I've got a 32 caliber Squirrel Hunter Traditions, or CVA rather, and also a 50 caliber muzzle loader, St. Louis Hawken. The only thing I don't have yet is a shotgun, and I may be thinking about putting one of those into the gun safe as well. But I've had a lot of experience with them. I've shot competition with the rifle. I had a blast, and people really want to get into having some fun. Go to a woods walk. I'll tell you, that is something right there. Or a black powder rendezvous. That's where they have all the reenactments, and they have all the gear, the period clothing. There's a lot of items that are available at a rendezvous. But the Black Powder Woods Walk, you're shooting anything to trying to light a matchstick at 20 feet all the way out to 100 yards on a gong. So it's a lot of fun. It's challenging.
Looking at the Uberti website, so here's the differences I can see just as an amateur here. First of all, $100 more for the MSRP versus the Pieta Navy.
Yeah.
You've got the color cased hardened finished frame, which the Pieta does not have. It's all brass. You've got the color cased hardened finished hammer. Now you do have a color cased hardened finished ramrod, I guess we could call it, loading rod mechanism on the Pieta. Yeah. The difference is on the engraving. That's a moot point. The grip looks a lot nicer on the Uberti than the Pieta. So, I mean, if I would go back and do it again, I'd probably buy the Uberti because I'm a fan of color case hardened finishing. I think it's beautiful. I think it just looks, I love that kind of that antique kind of look to it. So I'd be willing to pay $100 more to get the Uberti.
And that's exactly why you do it. Yes. If you like this a little bit more, if you're a stickler for not having the markings, maybe you buy the Pieta over the Uberti. If you like the color, if you like the color of the grips, maybe one's got a slightly bigger grip, slightly smaller grip. Maybe, so handle these things when you can, or if you're at the range and somebody's got one, ask them. It's just like anything else with guns, right? And that is probably a more, do what you want. It's your money. I'm not trying to tell you how to spend it. I don't want to come off that way, but you just saying that is a perfect example of why some of these arguments about the differences are kind of a moot point. That's really more of a legitimate reason,
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want another finish that Uberti does, that Pieta doesn't, the charcoal bluing. I don't know if you've ever seen charcoal bluing, but it gives it a nice, almost like Tiffany blue coloration to the bluing of it, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
I got some nice finishes out there. I like that flame bluing that they do. It's real nice.
And I can understand why they keep both Uberti and Pieta around, because to me, Uberti's offering a more budget-friendly experience, even though I'm sure some of the guns can cost about the same. But on a very basic level, revolver versus revolver comparison, you're getting a more deluxe experience with the Uberti. And maybe the fit and finish is a little bit superior. But just as a consumer looking, I want to buy another one from Uberti and have it as a comparison versus the Pieta. Plus, I'm already set up for the Pieta, everything I need for gear. So if I get the Uberti, there's really nothing else I have to buy. I mean, I've got everything I need to just go shoot the Uberti as soon as I get it. But again, I'm a sucker for the color case hardened finish. When I bought my lever action rifle, when I bought my Henry, I had to get the octagonal barrel with the color case hardened finish because I just thought it looked cool. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some differences between the two, but I do think the price is justified. Now, I can't speak to other models. I don't know how this compares to that and whatnot, but you can see there's definitely a higher price point with the Uberti, but not much.
Yeah,
we're talking about
Uberti also has them in stainless steel. If you didn't, if you saw there, and those are beautiful too. Their stainless steel guns are absolutely gorgeous.
And maybe that's another reason, obviously, why Brett is keeping both companies around, because one of them is like the Ford and the other one's the Lincoln. When you think about it, that's kind of the differences between them. Yeah. So, yeah, look at that. I mean, that's really nice.
And the Uberti Remington, I don't know, just my experience handling both at the Taylors & Co.'s booth at the American Outdoor Show, both times I was there, the Uberti Remington seemed to have a better weight and balance than the Pieta ones do.
Okay. This new Army target carbine would be fun to play with. This would be right here. I think this would just be cool. Now, if you shoot that, you got to keep your hands away from the front, right? Where do you put your left hand when you shoot that thing? You don't.
There's a place for it right underneath the trigger guard.
Zoom in on you're gonna wrap it around. That's that little curl back right there. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, man, there's no blast shield on that thing from the front of the cylinder. But hey, for 670 or what? That's not 420. No, the Revolver started at 429. This guy is 679 if I'm not mistaken. But I was like, 429, I'm gonna get one. I'm pretty sure this showed it as 679 for the MSRP, but that'd be fun to play around with. That would just be cool. So yeah, you got a lot of different options. You got your Dragoons. They did have your Walkers showing up here earlier when we were looking at them. So your pocket Navy revolvers, police revolver. Look at that. That's just cool right there. I love that.
Now some of these are going to be very similar to the originals. They're not exact perfect. They're close, but they're not. And other ones, once again, are fictitious. They never made this, or they only made a prototype of this, or wouldn't it be great if you could put this and this together? Oh, well, here
we're make a gun out of it and market it. The Americans will buy it up, right?
For example, the nickel-plated ones never existed, but they were silver-plated. So if you get a nickel-plated one, it's going to look like a silver-plated one, right? Getting it to tarnish the same wouldn't be but back then they didn't have the technology to nickel plate, but they did silver plate these guns. And that's part of the history. You start to learn about the differences and what looks real. And it goes back to Hollywood versus history. And that's why I think these guns are more than just, back in the day, they were an inexpensive way to shoot a gun. They really were. These things, you could buy your entry-level gun for $99 and everything you needed for it fairly cheap. It was available all day long. There was no rush on it because nobody was trying to buy it because there's nothing else available, or the factory hadn't burned down or whatever it was. So people who bought these things 20 years ago or more are, looking at today's prices or availability, are just getting sick. But other than that, other than recreation, you could use them for hunting, things like that. It's not really a self-defense gun. It's not your EDC. There are videos out there. Can you EDC a black powder? I mean, I was EDCing my new model Navy around Deadwood, South Dakota.
We both know somebody who does, Squib.
Huh?
We both know somebody who does.
Yeah, we do.
Drew does.
Well, isn't there some guy that's a felon on YouTube that daily carries a black powder revolver because he can?
So see,
in the state that he lives in, there's a dude down in Florida that had a video. He goes, I lost my firearms rights because I'm a felon, but I still carry a gun. And then you watch the video and it's like an old antique police revolver, that black powder. Yeah.
If you Google it, black powder, you might see a listing there. Can a felon carry? And as far as I know, legally they can, because they're not considered a firearm, right?
Depends on the state. They might have they might have anything that says anything that launches a projectile using any kind of powder is considered a firearm under Nebraska law. I mean, they could do whatever little local ordinances they wanted to. Now, you can probably fight that in federal court, but I mean, it's not going to make it easy for you, especially if you're a felon that doesn't have the money for an attorney.
Yeah. Real quick, out in the chat, Sam of Anarchy and Tony were discussing whether you can get the 1858 and 45 Colt. You can. Uberti makes a replica of the Remington factory conversion of the 1858 and 45 Colt, which can also be converted back to 44 cap and ball if you wanted to.
Oh, okay. Now, Vanessa says, what markings are you guys chatting about? Original markings from historical guns? No, like importer markings and warning and safety markings and like the address of the company they stamp all over the gun. And I think those are the kinds of markings that we're talking about. They're on the side of the barrel versus underneath where the ramrod is. A lot of companies will hide that. So if I was playing with the Pieta behind me, I think it's got a bunch of stamping on the side of the barrel. This is like warning this item is dangerous or whatever they're required to put on them to import them. So that's what we're talking about when we say the markings. So if you want something that's more historically correct, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah.
So underneath the barrel, you would normally have that covered up by the loading lever. It'll click into place underneath the barrel. And if on a Uberti, if you flip the revolver upside down and you lift up the loading, all the stamping is right underneath there. That's the only way you're going to see it. You have to purposely hold the gun in an odd orientation and move the loading lever to see it. On the Pietas, they put them on the top, on the side, things like that. So you would have to have it worked on to have those removed. And there are stampings on the original guns, and some of them are they're not exactly the same. For example, the revolver on the Colt has a naval battle scene or a Indian battle scene or something like that, and they put those on there because people were copying these.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so expensive to engrave this on the cylinders that you could tell the copy from the original because they wouldn't put the money into engraving.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their trademark. And you could say that's a Colt. And then they had other ones that were called brevet Colts where they were making illegal copies of these things. And so many of these guns were copied also during the Civil War by the South and things like that. And you're going to have differences in the markings in those because say they were stamping their company name on the top of the barrel or something like that. If the stamp wore out and they couldn't get another stamp, they'd take another stamp and turn it sideways or flip it upside down. So on, serial number 500, you've got a big C, and on serial number 501, you've got a little C or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And these are little things that if you really wanted to pay somebody to copy this based off of pictures or something you've seen at a museum, you could have these things looking just like an original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons why, and this is what people get wrong, if people think they see Army and Navy, that's because that's what branch of the military used them. The Colt Navy and the Colt Army were originally called the Colt Army and Navy because the Navy had a naval battle scene on the cylinder, and the Armies had an Army battle scene that the engravers engraved on the cylinders.
No, it's because of the caliber and the grip.
Not all of it. The Navy, if you look at the Navy, go back and look at the Navies, they always had the naval battle scene. Again, I said one of the reasons, not the main reason.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and see, I didn't know for the longest time either, and that's just, you're always discovering something new. And there are a lot of good YouTube channels out there. These people have been doing this stuff as long as me or longer, or they've got more stuff than me or things like that, and I learn from them. And sometimes, I contact them for information, or they contact me for different things, and this is a whole different rabbit hole to go down when in firearms. And it isn't for everybody, but I will say this, when you get to meet other people that are into black powder, it is a lot of fun. It really is. But if it's just not for you, it's not for you. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it took a lot of time, especially for me the first time. If you watch my video, it's like 20 minutes long. Like 15 minutes of that video is me talking to you about the process of how I actually load the cylinder and going through the whole process. Now, the one thing that we forgot to discuss is, okay, you've got your powder, you've got your ball that you press in there. No, what was it? The wads again, the little circular wads that you picked up yesterday at Shields?
So it's going to be it's either going to be called a wad, a grease wad, a lubricated wad, or the brand name of one of them is Wonder Wad. So I call them all Wonder Wads, like calling all facial tissue Kleenex.
Yeah.
And the wad is another thing that some people don't use. So you put the powder in and pack it, and then you put the wad in, then you pack it down. You don't want an air gap in that cylinder or in that chamber on the cylinder. So that I use the wad and I pack it down. Then you put in the ball. That wad is lubricated, stays behind the ball, and it kind of helps keep everything clean, and it also helps with just keeping the entire charge packed together. If you just dump powder and ball in there, and the original Colt instructions say to do that, and just jam that thing in there nice and tight, it'll work. It will function all day long. You're going to have a little bit messier cleanup, and and it's going to be a little bit more effort to pack it tight. But the way I was taught was powder, wad, ball, grease, done. If you just go powder and ball, you're
caps
good.
go on. I can't remember what step of the phase was the reloading the percussion caps. Those go on at the very end, correct?
The very end.
Okay,
And you know what? When you're at the range and you're loading this and you don't have the caps on there, it's really difficult to keep the thing pointed up or pointed down range, or it's easier to turn it sideways. And sometimes even when you have it pointed up, people standing next to you have no clue about these things, will look at you and give you dirty looks, or they'll pack up their stuff and move away, and they're scared. And it's like, dude, it's not going to just go off. But people are so terrified of these things. In my experience, they think they're going to blow up. They think they're going to go off. And don't get me wrong, I don't purposely try to flag somebody, but I'm telling you, if you're not at a range that has a lot of space, like my range, we're tight in there. I mean, our shooting lanes are like 3 or 4 feet wide, and we're just stacked in there next to each other because the place is so popular that it's just packed with people. And I'm trying to load this stuff. And I mean, people have freaked out a little bit. I mean, I've never had anybody argue with me or tell me, say anything. They just pack up their stuff and go to the other end because they're scared of these things. And they are very stable. They are very safe. They obviously use common sense, use safety stuff. I mean, you want it downrange, stuff like that. But I'm telling you what, when you're trying to load this thing, whether it's on a stand or it's just with the gun itself, it's difficult to keep the thing pointed downrange. It really is.
And the cool thing about Thunder on the Prairie 2022 is as you're sitting there doing it in the background, Pat in a bunker pulls up a table behind you and he starts doing the exact same thing. There's like two guys that are sitting there and they got him pointed up in the air or on their side and he's putting his powder in and stuff and you're putting your powder in and stuff. And I felt perfectly safe the whole time. So, you know, it wasn't a big deal. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from it. The last thing I want to mention too is as you're loading it, that what's called a ramrod, I guess, the loading rod. When you're pushing
it's a loading lever, cylinder, but you can call it a rammer, your ramrod. Yeah, a lot of people call it different things.
It takes a little bit of pressure, but not a lot. But you're not going to break it, like you said. As long as the gun is stable and you're just giving a good pull, that ball is going to go into the cylinder, and it's going to shear off like a ring. A little lead ring is going to be sitting there in the cylinder if you have a nice tight seal with that lead ball. So that's a good sign. If you get these little lead rings that you can just pick off and throw. Or throw them where, do with them whatever you want. That little lead ring is going to come off when you pack the ball in the cylinder, and that's because it's now got a nice tight seal. So that's one thing you can look for as you're doing it. There's a little thing you want to kind of brush some stuff off, and then at the very end, you get your cylinder frosting out. You goop it on the end of the cylinder, your chamber frosting, and you goop that on your boar butter. You goop that on the end of it, and then you enjoy your shooting experience. So.
Yes, it's slow, and for somebody who's new to it, it's going to see. I can tell you, I've picked up my speed. I can do it a lot faster than what I used to. And there are different things you can buy that will cut down your time, like the stand, or you can pre-make paper cartridges. You can get vials that are pre-measured with the powder and just dump the vial and just have like 100 vials ready to go and stuff like that. There are all kinds of things you can do to speed up the process and make it more enjoyable. But yeah, bringing up the loading lever, these guns are made with a more mild steel. So you might, think this don't feel as solid and you're going to bend it. I have never bent one. I'm not saying you can't. I do keep spares. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that I loaned my Lamat to, because it's on the side there and it looks so flimsy, he was like, I'm going to bend this thing. So I sent him a spare loading lever. I go, here, bend it. Just put this one on. I'm good. He never bent it. But I sent him a spare one just because I'm like, no, shoot the gun. Do it. Just,
Yeah. Real quick, there was a question out there from, was it Sam of Anarchy? Let's see.
Yeah, Sam of Anarchy.
Does Uberti do a Colt Lightning 2 by any chance? If this is what you're looking for.
I've not seen one if they do.
I typed in Colt Lightning.
Wait, are you talking about the Lightning rifle, or are you talking about the Lightning revolver?
I'm going to assume he's talking about the revolver since he was talking about the Uberti cattle.
Yeah, I found a rifle if that's what you want, but that's not going to be black powder, right?
Well,
it's
in
supposed to be.
1884, it may have still been black powder, but it would have been a self-contained cartridge.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I found when I did a search was just that right there. But I guess I didn't try a revolver. I guess here let's I misspelled lightning on here.
Okay, so if you want to know about the Colt Lightning, you go through Cimarron, and I believe it's a Pieta. It might be an Uberti. I haven't had one in a long time. So it's a 38 caliber. You can run smokeless through it, but it is not an authentic Lightning. It is not a double action. It is single action.
Oh, then
it looks like a Lightning. It's kind of got the same sort of grip. It's a really this that's coming up here. Yeah, I had that before.
That's not the real thing.
I had that. Nobody makes a real double action. Okay. Back in the day, that was a double action. And it was kind of a rare thing. There were only a few companies making double actions. You
had the Lightning and the Thunderer. The Lightning was 38 and the Thunderer was 45 Colt.
Yep. And I want to say like Adams, right, was making it in double action, I think, in England and that sort of thing. So there weren't really a lot of double actions. But yeah, this modern reproduction is going to have the look, the weight, that sort of thing, but it will not function the same way. But you can run modern smokeless 38s through it, and it's not going to hurt it.
Okay. So hopefully that answers the question. And who knows, at some point there might be somebody that makes one, because if there's a market for it, there's somebody that's probably going to make it if it can sell. So.
And that's a difficult thing with this. It's hard to get the market and keep the market. I think that's maybe why the Italians make these things in batches, and then they make people wait and want these things so that they can sell them and stuff, because this isn't mainstream. Not everybody has a black powder revolver. Not everybody wants a black powder revolver. Some people get them. Back in the day, you would get them because they were cheap, and then when you found out how much work it was to clean them or whatever, you'd get rid of them, or just stuff like that. So it's, once again, I keep saying it's not for everybody, but if you really want to get into it, there's lots of resources out there to help. You can get a hold of any of us. Check out some of the YouTube channels that I'm going to plug in the comment section of this video, and really just don't be surprised if some of the stuff isn't available now. If it does come back, that when you can get to it, you may find that you like it. It's going to be slow at first. It's going to be awkward at first. It's going to be counterintuitive first. But once you pick up the speed, once you get better equipment,
once you smell that smoke the first time,
yes,
you're going to smell that cheeseburger cooking. You're like, that smells good. I'm going to fire again. We're going to answer one last question. We'll run this one around the room, and then we're going to go ahead and call it. I've got to get going here, guys. Vanessa Kitty says, what is the oldest firearm that you fired? I got to use 50 cal flintlocks from early 1800s in Alaska. For me, nothing super anything you've seen on my channel, probably an M1 Garand from the 40s for me. I'm thinking that's probably about as old as I've gone. I don't have, most of my firearms are modern and relatively new. I don't think I have anything. My Mosin Nagant. My Mosin Nagant is a 1924 hex or 23 hex or something like that. That's probably the oldest rifle that I've shot that I still shoot on a regular basis. It's great. It's held up just fine. So for me, the Mosin Nagant. Squib, what about you? Oldest firearm that you've ever fired?
And off the top of my head, I can't even.
Anything from the Marines that was vintage that you guys got to shoot off? Any vehicle mounted stuff?
You know,
you guys had cannons. You guys had cannons back then, didn't you?
Yeah, 20 millimeter cannons.
20 millimeter cannons. Yeah,
20 millimeter cannons. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of what might be the oldest thing that I've shot, but I like old stuff. I like the history behind it. Some of that old stuff is still relevant. There are people who say, no, it's not. It's old. It's slow. It's clunky. It's antiquated. Dude, the stuff worked 100 years ago. It still works today. There's some interesting things about it. It's more of a challenge. It's not, but once again, it's not for everybody. You got the people that they're only going to buy a gun if they think they can kill somebody with it. They're only going to buy a gun if it's cheap. They're only going to buy a gun because this is what they're using for hunting. That's it. They're not interested in guns for collecting. They're not interested in guns for any other reason, and that's their thing.
Well, I'm going to say this, though. We keep saying it's not for everybody, but I would encourage you, if you're even remotely interested in it, try it. There's good resale on this stuff if it doesn't work out. I mean, I never thought I'd be into it, but the price was right. It looked like it was a lot of fun. I had a discussion with these guys. Yes, I'm a firearms enthusiast, but it doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy doing this or the cleanup that follows it. But I really did have a fun time. I like learning something new, just like how I never thought I'd get into reloading. And then I did one session of it. It's one of the most relaxing activities I've ever done in my life. I've done multiple sessions of reloading, but it's like, man, this is fun. I can isolate myself. I can focus on one little process. I can forget about the world's problems for a while. And that's kind of how it was when I was at the range. I feel that way anytime I go to the range anyway. It's my Zen location where I can decompress, but having the opportunity to focus on one little thing and go through the process and see it work. I mean, I haven't been that excited since I did like my first AR build, it was a lot of fun. So if you're thinking about it, try. It might be something fun to get the family into. It can be an investment in money. And I know there's not a lot of money that people have floating around these days, but if you're looking at probably $350 to get into it, $375, you can get yourself set up well and just take on something new. You can spend the afternoon shooting it. And if anything, like what Tony York was saying, they look cool just sitting around. They look cool when you put them up on the wall. You can get a little display case for it just for fun. So that's what I got to say about it. Rich, what about you? What's the oldest firearm that you've ever fired before?
Well, there's two that were made around the same period. It's hard to figure out which one was older because they were both from the late 1880s. Mm-hmm. One was a Gatling gun chambered in .30 Winchester centerfire, and the other was a Hotchkiss mountain gun.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know, that's a cannon. That's a breech loading cannon.
Oh. What was that like? Was that pretty cool?
Oh man, that thing was a blast, literally.
Yeah. That was a blast. I bet you're waiting. You're boom. Ah!
Yeah, and that's the gun that most modern tank weapons or tank cannons are based around. They all branched off from the Hotchkiss mountain gun.
Sweet. I'm gonna say one thing real quick about this whole black powder experience. The recoil is nothing like what I expected. It was not nearly as punishing as modern firearms and smokeless cartridges. Like shooting the Squib's Walker, it just felt like not even like a 350. It felt like a 38 special. Is really because there's so much weight in the gun. Even this guy felt way less punishing than like a 357 Magnum. It was like nothing. A little bit of thud, almost felt like a 9mm. It was surprising because there's so much weight, and you're not dealing with the potential power of a smokeless cartridge. You can get these. Don't get me wrong. You can load these hot. And you can run some massive rounds and stuff, but it was fine. It wasn't any. The gun. If you watch it, the gun barely moves in my hand in my shooting video. It hardly moves at all. If it does, it's more me moving the gun, getting set up before I fire it, than even pulling the trigger. It kind of thuds a little when you fire it, but nothing. And it was fairly accurate too. I think I shot a about a 4-inch group at whatever 25 yards or whatever, and I did fine first time around. So
yeah, and I need to clarify the caliber that was on the Gatling gun for people that don't know.
Yeah,
30 Winchester centerfire is also known as 30-30.
Is that the old version of 30 Super Carry?
Yeah, that's the actual technical name for 30.
I call I try to make fun of 30 Super Carry anytime I can. So yeah.
I know, but a lot of people don't know. Everybody here knows 30-30 is 30-30. You say 30 Winchester centerfire, and you get looks like, huh?
What? Just like how I call 45 long Colt, which makes Tony cringe on the back end there as he watches this. It's 45 Colt, right? Well, I call it 45 long Colt because it's listed as 45 LC, but it's just 45 Colt, not 45 ACP, just 45 Colt. So, yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and call it real quick just to answer Kevin June's question. Yeah, Ammo Dog, my dog Charlie, he had a bladder stone surgery a little over a week ago. It's been about 9 or 10 days into his recovery now, and I had it done on a Thursday. That night he was coming off the anesthetic. I was, tending to his wounds and stuff. He had 3 marble-sized stones in his bladder that I had to have removed, and they're doing a chemical analysis on him right now to see what caused him, if it was dietary or genetic. So he's been recovering. It's been a very slow process. I had to keep him isolated, very little movement, especially the first couple days. So on my B channel, I actually did a video on the whole experience of what I went through, the cost, the pre-treatment, the post-treatment, what you can expect if you've got to get this surgery done on your dog. And I couldn't do a show Thursday night. And then Saturday, it was only a couple days in, and I still had to keep an eye on him. He had sutures and staples. So I cannot risk having those things reopen. So, and not only that, it would be after hours vet bills, which would be insane because I already had to pay for the surgery. So anyway, Ammo Dog's doing great. I appreciate you guys asking. I'm still carrying him up and down the stairs just so we don't stretch out his belly wound. But on Thursday, he gets his staples out. And then after that, I hope he's back to 100%. We're going to try to get him to lose about 5 pounds, also get him down to his 35-pound fighting weight. Squib saw him. Squib, he was a 180 from when you saw him back in June. That was 4 weeks before his surgery. He was lethargic. He was wincing. He was just not doing good. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in June, I was like, something ain't right. He ain't acting himself. And then this week, he was acting himself again.
Dude, he was jumping over stuff and running and jumping, and he's got energy. He wants to play fetch. And that's the only thing is he's still recovering. So I don't want to overdo because he loves to chase a golf ball. He'll chase a golf ball 100 yards if you throw it down the sidewalk, but I can't risk, having stuff happen to him. So that, and then a good friend of mine and his wife and his family moving from Texas to Nebraska, that took a week out of my summer too. And I was the chase car following the U-Haul as we were driving up the interstate to make sure everybody and everything was safe. And so I had that experience that took a week away from me. Now on Saturday, I may or may not do a show on the 28th of July, just to let people know there's a huge car show and I've got friends coming out for that. So I may be busy that morning, but I'll try to get a Caliber Corner out for you guys this Thursday. Although on Thursday, Ammo Dog gets the staples out, so I got to watch for complications from that. But we should be okay doing a Thursday night show, and we'll talk about something fun from the armory that I got sitting next to me. I've got a pretty good idea for something if we haven't discussed it yet. So anyway, guys, all right, we will go ahead and call it. So I'll just let you guys give a final plug. We'll give a shout out on the YouTube side. I will do my July Patreon drawing this week, I promise. So we'll have a box of swag going out to another lucky patron. I've only got 50 or 51 of you guys, so you got good odds every week of winning. If you win one month, you can win the next month. You go right back in the ammo box. So let's go and wrap it up. Rich White, we're going to start off with you. Any final plugs you want to give us before we go?
Yeah, just go back if you want a primer that's a 2-hour on each specific type of class and firearm, whether it's the revolver, rifle, shotgun. We started with the cap and ball, and we moved up to the contained cartridge. Go over to my channel and go back. It's a year and a half, 2 years ago now. It might be 2 years, 2.5 years. But,
time flies when you do these podcasts, man. I'll go back and look at stuff we did 5 years ago. It's like, oh my God, I was so skinny back then. Yeah.
Go back and check those out. They'll give you a general history lesson on those types of firearms, and they'll have stuff that we didn't cover here because we didn't have time to get all into the history and everything. Mostly we talked about function and prices on modern stuff and stuff. So if you want an actual primer on the history, go over to my channel and check out those old shows from a couple of years ago. Even though they were done live stream, they're one of those ones where it's still going to be relevant because we didn't talk political stuff or anything along those lines. It was all just about the guns from they're the Guns of the Wild West series. Go over there, check those out. I may have to. You know what I should do? I should go over there and do a playlist on those. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, but, dude, that's gonna take you a little while.
Well, there's only I think 4, maybe 5 videos in that series.
Oh yeah, okay, that specific list. Yeah. It might take you longer to find them than actually make the playlist. Yeah. Cool. I'm just throwing some fun banners out there to everybody. Just make sure you vote for Night Strike for President in 2024. Vote Sandhills Media for Nebraska Senate, and then vote Defense Dad for Dad of the Year. So, all right, Squib, what about you? Anything you would say before we go? I appreciate all of your info and insight, and then you're a wonderful teacher. You won't admit it, but you're a fantastic instructor, Squib. You taught me how to reload while you in single shot, and then you taught me how to use this. I just want to say thank you for introducing me to this wonderful world of black powder revolver ownership and showing me how to care for and properly use the firearm. But on that, Squib, anything you want to say before we go?
So in some of the videos, whether it be yours or mine or some of the other channels, you're going to see the guns jam. You're going to see misfires. You're going to see cap jams are fairly common. You're going to see some handling of the guns that might not be familiar to you. And you might think they're unsafe, even though that was the way they did it back then. And there was a reason they did it. You know, you're going to see some smoke, some spark, and some things are going to be a little bit slow. But that's kind of common. Now, it doesn't mean that when they use these things for self-defense or in combat or something like that, that every single time it jammed, every single time it misfired. Sometimes these things need time to break in. Sometimes you've got to do some gunsmithing to them. They would take them to gunsmiths and tune them and fix problems. Yeah. They sell aftermarket parts for these, in particular, the nipples. That's where you're going to have your biggest hangups is your percussion caps. When you fire them, the spent cap is going to be flattened and it could get jammed in the mechanism.
That's all I kept running into when we were shooting your guns in my range video. And I left most of that in there because I want people to see it's not always a perfect experience. Most of my screw-ups and problems with the firearm stay in my video, because I want you to see what happened. It's like, well, it wasn't just all, you know, whatever you want to call it, happiness and fun when I was using it. I had to really crank the hammer a couple times and get those primers out, those percussion caps out of there.
And that's exactly what I wanted them to see too, is that sometimes you can just put 2 thumbs on it and cock that thing back and it just goes and you just work it right through it. Other times when you're holding it, when you tilt it up, that makes it fall out, things like that. There's a reason they do that. But on the other hand, sometimes you can have the caps fall off completely or other things. So don't let that discourage you. That's what it's going to be like when the gun is new and you haven't broke it in. I'm not saying you have to change out the factory nipples with aftermarkets, but they tend to make it run smoother. I'm not saying you have to have a gunsmith work on it, but you may have some issues. You may end up finding somebody who's really good at this stuff. They can tune it for you, or you can do it yourself. There are things that you can do to make this more to speed it up, and also with experience you learn the different tools you can use to speed it up or make it easier, or you just get faster yourself. So don't let some of these raw videos scare you. This is the experience you're going to have. This is the real experience you're going to have. But if you get into it, I'm telling you, over time you're going to find that if you really put your heart into it, you're going to find these things enjoyable, and you're going to get through some of that stuff, and you're going to speed up the process. I wasn't going to try to rush Travis too much, and I mean, I had just replaced the nipples on my one of my revolvers there, and I'd only fired like 12 times with it, and then came out the Thunder on the Prairie. I literally didn't even have time to test my stuff, and I didn't bring all my stuff either. I've got 2 of them taken apart downstairs. I have no time to work on them, things like that. So if you don't have a lot of time in your schedule, that could be a hindrance. But if you're new to this, that lack of time in your schedule could be a way for you to start accumulating everything. And you may not know what you need to get. If you just get the basics and you start off with that, and you start to go, well, what can I do to make this faster? What can I do to make this easy? Oh, that didn't work. Maybe I should try this one or that. It's just like anything else in firearms. You'll find your own way. You really will.
Awesome. All right, so guys, this has been season 5, episode number 239. We love black powder revolvers, and you should too. So maybe you'll be interested in checking these out today, or if you know somebody that has one, or secondhand, you want to look around and find one, you might find a good deal on one. I'd recommend buying new, just to be safe and careful and warranty-wise and stuff. But you know, it's just the opportunity that you might have. So here we go. Joining us today was Tony York, Kevin Jung, Rich White. Kevin, out there, I gave you a recommendation for a restaurant you need to go to in Garland, Texas. It's worth the road trip. I know that you're in the Texas area now. Go to Babe's Chicken Dinner House. Patriot in the Dark, Vanessa Kitty watching. Let's see who else was out there. I was out there a lot. Tacos and French fries. We did have Defense Dad, IPAC 9mm, says G19 is the best handgun ever made. Me. There you go, man. All right. Let's see what else we got out there. Sam of Anarchy 92, Pat in a Bunker's watching today. A lot of the usual suspects. Ozzy Orsborn, Vanessa Kitty throwing some great knowledge out there at us as usual. Let's see here. Kingpin's definitely out there having a good time. Let's see. Pat in a Bunker, I think I mentioned him. Tony York. Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling right now. DJ Play Nice was out there too today. Good to see you, DJ Play Nice. Mad Sexy was out there also watching today. Gunmetal Guy USA, always in the house. X Adam 1 watching today too. Echo's Reloading Chamber was out there. Thank you, Echo. You have a fantastic channel. I'm a big fan of your channel, and I've learned tons watching your channel also, just so you know. Squiblet that's out there and over here. Squiblet was over here and out there. It may be the same person. I don't know. Hunting and Stuff with J&J. Tactical Fud watching today also. Rich White. Robert Lawler out there watching. Chris Winslet's out there also watching. And a lot of people today. So, and Mike's out there too. So we're going to go ahead and call it at that. All right.
The poll.
And Snake Doctor 78. Who did I miss?
No. What was the results of the poll?
Oh man, I forgot all about that. Yeah, the poll. Yeah. We'll have a fun poll for Thursday night. I got an idea for one that actually came from breakfast this morning. So let's go on over to the poll real quick and see what the results were. So do you own a black powder revolver? Yes, 21%. No, 57%. No, but I may buy one in the future, 23%. So potentially 40% of you out there are or could be black powder owners. So 57% was no. I should have had a no and I won't buy one, but I didn't put that down as an option because that's never an option. So there's your poll for today. So there you go. It's a fun little hobby out there that a lot of you could get into, and something to kind of check out. And it's just cool. It's just very cool. So anyway, guys, this has been a great episode. Thanks for watching. This has been Caliber Corner. We've got here we go, Rich. Put your little message out there. We've got a great episode for you guys to check out. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out Squiblet. Check out the Unloaded Media channel. Also, you guys will love that. Otherwise, I want you guys to have fun. I want you to be safe. And as you know, we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully see everybody on Thursday. Definitely going to see everybody on Saturday. You guys have a great weekend. Get out there, go to the range, take somebody shooting with you, have fun.